Welcome back, you lovely people. This is my latest walk around video for our Saturday the 15th of February sale, the day after Valentine's Day. So do the right thing, look after the other half on the 14th, and on the 15th treat yourself to something nice. We've got over 100 cars, vans, 4x4s, hot rods, beach buggies, you name it, we've got them all. So I'm going to have to rattle through them quite quick. But before I do that, a few of you have left some very lovely comments that you enjoyed these walk arounds, so thank you for that. The person that taught me how to do a walk around many years ago in the 1990s, Mr. Rob Wood, my dealer principal, I was actually with him last night. I was at a launch of Xpeng in London, and Rob was there, and he learned from his dad, Mick Wood, two of the best guys in the motor trade. So if you're watching, gentlemen, thank you. And these walk arounds, those skills were learnt from them, so thank you, lads. But how about this? Let's start with a fast Ford, well, a lukewarm Ford. XR4i's. What they lack in outright pace, I think they make up for an 80s style. Look at that. If you can't afford a three-door Cosy, and let's be honest, who can these days? I think these are even more interesting because they are before the Cosworth. You get the biplane rear wing. The designer of this car reckoned he was inspired by the Porsche 928, which I do think was a bit of a leap. But I do think they are very much of their time and very funky. This is obviously a 2.8 Cologne engine, 5-speed gearbox. It's just nice, it's because it looks to be very unspoilt and largely original. It's had some paint, very good paint. The interior, if you look, is very good. All the baggy seats are not baggy in this car. Also, that's the original fabric, and that's really hard to find. It needs a bit of recommissioning to get this back on the road. It runs, it stops, it drives. It passed an MOT in 2023, so she's not miles away from being perfect, but what I love about this is we know that there's Ford tax, we know there's a huge amount of money to get any three-door Sierra. This is a no reserve car. And I tell you what, guys, it really is quite reasonable. Little bit of a bleb there on the wing. So some recommissioning work to do, some light cosmetics to do, but you get to set the price. And Tim's bought me a cup of coffee. Thank you, Tim. What a lovely team we have here. It's the kind of VIP treatment I expect. My coffee is brought to me on set. Right, 1992 Citroen BX19 GTi. I cannot express for you the amount of love that I have for this car. Also no reserve. Gandini car, of course, these. I remember seeing them in 1985 when they first came out, or 1984 in France on holiday, the BX, thinking, what a fabulous design. Don't they still look so good? So French, so crisply styled. Look at the interior on this as well. Leather, full leather. 116,000 miles on this. It's a manual car. We think, because of the spec and the paperwork, that it was a dealer demonstrator. It's too nicely done. So full leather, aircon, sunroof, alloys. It's had a new cam belt, a new clutch, and 4 new tyres in 2023. So again, another car that's had significant expenditure. Is it immaculate? No. There's a few tiny little bits, but it's very tidy and very presentable. I would get the wheels refurbed, spend a little bit of money on paint and polish, but 14 stamps in the book, 12 of which are main dealer. Wow. I would like to own this car very much. And it's a manual. They're rare anyway, these. You just never see them. And black, I think, is the coolest colour. Leather's an exceptionally rare option. And the mileage is sensible and the service history is phenomenal. So please have a bid on that. As I say, no reserve. You set the price. Moving on to a car that, of course, I love. And funnily enough, talking of Rob and Mick Wood, my old work buddies, my old bosses, this is what we sold. We sold Saabs. Now, this is a 2010. This is towards the end of Saab, just before they sadly left us. A 9.3 2.8 V6 XWD Carlsson. So Eric Carlsson was, of course, Saab's rally driver, gave him the World Rally Championship, won the Monte Carlo Rally. Just a thoroughly nice guy who had the pleasure of working with quite a few times in the 90s, actually. Amazing driver right up until his dying day. These are rare. They only made 96, which is the hat tip to Eric's old rally car. And this one's the 93,000, which makes it quite price rangy, which I love. Very limited edition, as I say, very high specification, 2 previous keepers with loads of money spent. And what made these good, they were 276 brake, tuned suspension, tuned engine, proper flying machine. Really genuinely quick car, not nippy, but fast. Automatic, great colour this one as well. So we think this used to belong to a Saab dealer principal. And then our vendor, who's a serial Saab enthusiast, is only the 3rd keeper in the logbook. And he spent over 3 grand fairly recently keeping it looking good. It is a really nice, presentable car, that. Because of that, you will need to spend a reasonable amount of money, estimated at 8 to 12. It's very nice that even the calipers have been cleaned and refurbished. And the wheels are absolutely beautiful. Now, it has rained, so I do apologise, I can't give you my full paint overview, but it looks very, very good. Certainly, with all these things, all I try to do in these videos is give you a quick indication. These are not by any means full walk-arounds. It's just to give you a flavour of these cars. If you see one that you like, please go to our wonderful website. We have a full listing, hundreds of pictures, even underbody pictures on most of the cars as well, driving videos and book pack videos. So if you really want to do a deep dive, this is just a quick management summary. Find something you like, have a proper look. Get all the information before you bid, because the more you know, the more you spend. 2007 Mercedes-Benz SLK, 280. Again, another no reserve cars. What we try to do at these auctions is give you a lot of cars that have no reserve. Two reasons why. One, it's a lot more fun. Secondly, believe it or not, from the vendor's point of view, cars tend to make more money. Reason being is if people don't know what to spend on a car, if there's a few of you fighting, you'll soon find out. And the great thing about a no reserve car, everybody registers to bid on it because they think they're going to get it cheap. Then you've got 20 registered bidders all trying to buy it cheap. And guess what? It goes for the correct amount of money, exactly what it's worth. And I think that's what will happen here. A 280 V6 German convertible in the German national racing colour, original factory spec, really nice looking car. It's had a subframe replacement, which is good because they can corrode and fail on these. This one obviously has, and Mercedes have replaced it. It's had new front struts, new front pads and discs, new parking sensors. It's got the air scarf on, which is a really nice upgrade on these as well. And just a ton of parts and money spent. The wind deflector's been fitted as well. Got a new airflow meter. Do have time to read the description of this. This is what I'm saying. I'll give you like a quick run through of these just to give you a flavour. Take the time. There's 3 pages of description on this car which outlines the things that have been spent on it. A lot of money. And yet, my friends, and yet that has no reserve. Now it's cold, it's wet today, but give it a month or two, it's going to be sunny and warm. And you could be driving with your air scarf on in your no reserve SLK. I think that's fabulous. I really do. Now, if you want to go a little bit faster, a little bit finer handling, very hard to beat this car. Porsche Cayman S, so it's the sportier, quicker version. If you haven't driven one of these cars, they're a really interesting proposition because when Porsche made this car, they had to hamstring their own product because the Cayman is so good because it's got the mid-engine balance. Dare I say it's a better car than the 911. What they never did on these cars from the factory on the lower models was put diffs in them. They never had limited slip diffs because if you put a diff in one of these, it isn't a 911 eater. They're such a good car. I think very pleasant looking as well. Perhaps spend a little bit of time and money restoring the headlamps. They've yellowed a tiny bit. That's an easy job to do. This one's done 79,000 miles. We've estimated it at 8,500 to 9,500. Really nice factory spec on this one, and only 1,000 miles since the last service. Let's see inside. Black leather. It is obviously the automatic gearbox, which is what's making it cheaper. But again, think about how you're going to use the car. If you're a track purist, you probably want to find a manual. If you just want something that's great on a B road, something you can drive every sunny day, actually the automatic, for all the money that you save, is a very good shout, I would say. How about this? Mercedes SL. We have SLs of every generation in every sale that we do. I really like this shape. 2005 350, really nice, well-maintained car in silver, as you can see, with a number of very nice options. Got the original book pack. Let me see if I can find those options for you. Low miles for the year with an MOT through to December 2025. It's got Parktronic, it's got CD change, it's got xenon headlamps, which do look very cool. They look cool when they're on, but they even look cool when they're off it. The xenons, they look very groovy. 2 keys on that one as well. These were, what were these? They're about 70 grand when they were new. And you could buy that car at the next sale for somewhere between 5 and 6. And I'd heartily recommend that you do. Now I am going to have a strategic swag of my coffee. There you go. That Tim has kindly left me. Look, this is my lovely colleague. You'll have seen Tim on his What's Coming In videos. Now this car I have a huge amount of time for because my very good friend Dan Cartwright, one of my bestest mates, he had the identical car. He had TSW Venoms on his, not the RS wheels, which really make this. I think this looks fantastic. Our Fast Ford's good news always. Our XR's good news always. Is this one of the best shaped Fiestas they ever did? I think it is. I think the proportion of this is absolutely brilliant. RS is a monster money now. You could buy this with 127,000 miles on the clock for somewhere between 6 and 7. So the wheels are non-standard, but I totally rate them. No speaker holes on the parcel shelf, which means it's almost museum quality. There seems to be, oh, there you go, look. You've got what looks like the OE wheels in the back. So you not only get the RS upgrade wheels, but you've got the original ones in the back as well. So 27,000 miles showing, which is 127,000 miles on this one. But the interior, Fraser, come and have a look at this interior. It's rudely roosh-free. It's very, very tight and taut on the interior. Owner's manual, instruction book, loads of invoices and receipts. It sits well, it's had some paint for sure. A really nice car, a car you can drive, use, enjoy, have a lot of fun with. I do think this generation with that bumper, which they've also put on the RS, was the nicest looking one. For not silly money. Hard to get into the fast Ford club without spending a fortune. There's your way to do it. Now this Ford is not fast, but it is cool. XR3i convertibles went through a period of being a little bit naff, and now they've come through the other side, and suddenly they're very, very desirable. And everyone's realised they're a good looking, I think very handsome car, the Mark IV. Love this colour much. And this is very, very nice, this. Pretty much standard looking thing, 96,000 miles, it's a 1989 car, 2 former keepers, with 10 service stamps in the book. And it is very clean indeed. The hood is very nice. From as far as I can see, no tears or rips in the hood. That works perfectly. It's got the hood cover as well. It's had a cosmetic refresh. I would say it's probably had a little bit of very good paint. What's nice about this, it's got the Recaros. Have a look at that. Driven here, it's got the book pack and wallet. It's just lovely. It's very, very straight. If you want an XR3i, they are getting quite expensive now. Bizarrely, even though they carried a premium when they were new, now, in the classic car market, the convertibles are cheaper than the 3 doors, but no less fun. If you're looking for a great starter classic, not expensive to insure, not expensive to maintain, and generally very reliable car, I think you'll struggle to do better than that. And that is a no reserve car. You get to set the price, which is always fun. Now these, I think, are aging like a fine wine. Look at this. Alfa Romeo GTV 2-litre twin spark. Just look at the headlight details. Just remember, this is a mass-produced car. And they did a lot of sort of concept car, show car stuff that normally wouldn't make it off the show stand. And it made it into the showroom. I think these look absolutely phenomenal, these things. Now, just bear in mind, this is a 28-year-old car. It's an 86,000, it's a manual. Really gorgeous trim combination. So you've got black with oxblood if you look inside. The non-more Italian colour. Original book pack, stamped service book and dealer brochure. It's got the tele-die wheels with new Maxxis tyres on. The paint's really good. A few little tiny marks on there. Minor wear on the leather. 8 stamps in the book on there as well. And a good file. Is that going to be an expensive car? I don't think it is. But I think that has some appreciation potential, you know. It's got all the things that make classic cars desirable. It's coupe, it's manual, it's Italian, it's good colour combination, it's got a good history. It's not going to be expensive to buy. Again, a car to enjoy, a car to have fun with, that you might, stress might, make a few quid on. But would you really care if you didn't? I don't think you would. I think you'd just be cruising to the car shows. These tyres are so new, they've got the hairs on. Look at that. So I think you can just jump in there and have some fun. Now, I do like Japanese cars. I like Japanese sports cars very much because, generally speaking, they're very well put together and very reliable. So you get all the fun of a sporty car. I particularly like Japanese design language, and then they very rarely go wrong. 1997 Honda Civic CRX 1.6 ESI. This is actually quite a rare little car now. There's not many of these left. 21 stamps in the book. How do you make a reliable car stay reliable? Service it all the time. So this one's a manual, 118,000 miles. It is a UK, not JDM. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't mind JDM cars at all. The roof works perfectly. The interior is unmarked, and we have 2 sets of keys as well. Do have a look. We put book pack videos on for every car that we can. And we put the book pack on for this one. It takes a long time to go through all the stamps, 21 stamps. The only thing I would slightly crib this on, and I think it will make the car cheaper for you to buy, is these wolf race alloys, very much of the period of the early noughties. They were the official wheel supplier to Pimp My Ride UK, which tells you everything you need to know. You might like them, you might not like them. They're fairly inoffensive, but I think if you found a set of Honda wheels, which would be very easy to do on eBay, refurbish those and put those on this, I think you'd almost put another 500, 700 quid on the car. Easy to do, great colour that, lots of potential. What's it going to cost your team? No reserve, you tell me. And I stress again, 21 stamps in the book. Have a look at that book pack video, you'll love it. Now, Festival of the Unexceptional is coming, Haggerty's favourite show. We always have a few cars that you can take to Festival of the Unexceptional and wow everybody with. I think if you took your Rover 45, I think you would wow them. Why do we love the Rover 45? Well, we love it because it's a little bit of Middle England, isn't it? It's like a baby limo. But the main reason we love it is just a Honda underneath, isn't it? So you're getting all that Japanese engineering and design in a British wrapper. This one's really nice. It's done 42,000 miles. It's manual. The interior is like new, which is not easy to achieve with beige velour. 9 stamps in the service book, book pack and wallet, and it's had, get this, timing belt, water pump and head gasket in 2024. So all the things I was about to say you have to watch out for, you don't. Again, a no reserve car. The team have done such a good job. Not only consigning some really good stuff, but getting them in at no reserve. And why I love that, it's like I say, it's not that you're going to necessarily get them cheap. It just means you're going to get them at the right amount of money. Very clever move by the vendors. We have a policy here, if it's under £5,000, we'll stick it in at no reserve because it always makes more money for the vendors. Always the best way to do it, and it's much more fun to bid on a no reserve car because it starts low, it goes up, and it's a more fun ride, I think, a no reserve car. We have many convertible Mercedes for you today, many. They're a wonderful thing, and they don't have to be expensive. Again, another no reserve car. How about this CLK 420 Elegance? And I would say it is very elegant, this one. 40,000 miles. Automatic, 3 former keepers, 12 stamps in the book, ice blue with cream. What a thing. Very pretty. I mean, what would you pay for that? I mean, you're going to pay a few thousand. And I do bang about this all the time, and I can't really stress it enough. I made the decision 3 years ago, to give back my lease car at the end of the lease. I was spending 300, 400 quid a month and just smoke around in late 90s, early noughties cars, because cars like this, which have airbags, side airbags, seatbelt pretensioners, relative luxury, relative modernity, and are very usable cars that will do 30, 40 mpg and start every morning and do hundreds of thousands of miles, aren't expensive. So if you're thinking, I need a new lease car, I need a new modern car, don't do that. Come and buy this for a few thousand with 40,000 miles on it. I guarantee if you maintain that car, it'll do at least another 150,000 miles. And you might buy it for £3,000 or £4,000 or £5,000. It's not going to be an expensive car. It could save you an absolute fortune. And ask yourself the question, would you rather drive around in someone else's lease car that you're renting or this that you own? I think you already know the answer. That is a very usable modern classic. Or, if that's not your colour, and you want a little bit more chunk and a bit more and aggro, how about this? The AMG Sport version of the same car. So CLK 280 AMG Sport. You can see if you look at things like the wheels, brake calipers, front bumper, we've turned the aggression up a little bit. So basically you've almost got the same driving experience, but if you want a bit more flash for your cash, again, no reserve, full AMG pack on this one, 99,000 miles, with full history and loads of paperwork. This is great, isn't it? And again, it's a Mercedes. There's a few little marks on the roof here, if you look. Now, what can you do about that? That needs a really good clean. It's actually all complete. You can get a kit. All this is, you can see, so we've just been sat outside. So I would spend some money cleaning, and you can re-dye the roof, and you can get that to look very good. So just bid with that in mind. It's going to cost you about 200 or 300 quid to get that roof looking like new. Whereas on the blue car, it is already looking like new. But again, it's a no reserve car. You get to set the price. I can't really think of a way that you could drive around in summer with the family, because don't forget this is a true 4-seater, in quite such style for such little money. Wonderful cars. I think this is Mercedes at the height of their design in the noughties as well. Now over here, random auction this. I love this. Basically, if it's cool and in nice condition and we think we can find a home for it, we will consign it. There is no doubt about that. Bet you weren't expecting this, were you? How about 1988 Renault Dodge Commando tractor unit. That doesn't mean you have to drive it with no pants. This is rare and in extraordinary condition. So this has been used as a show truck. People have been taking this to shows and showing off with it. So if you've got a collection, you could, if you wanted to, I'd imagine, press it back into service. It's a good working truck, but look at this, look at the condition. This hasn't been doing hard work for a long, long time. So the mileage is, as you would expect, enormous. 653,000 kilometres on this. Really nicely detailed, sort of show quality vehicle. And it's solid and got lovely attention to detail. It's going to be somewhere between 12 and 14,000 this. Interesting market, truck market. I don't pretend to know a huge amount about it, but I do know that it's getting bigger because all the people that are hauliers or have spent a lifetime in the haulage business or are the kids of hauliers want to buy the cool old trucks that their dad had or they had when they started their business. They're also just cool things, aren't they? And if you just run it as a tractor, it doesn't cost that much to run. So 12 to 14, some good history with that. And again, the condition is in really, really nice nick. So do have a bid on that if that's your jam. Or are you thinking club racing? I used to go club racing. The dream for me was always a race van, fully fitted out race van that you could either live in, put your bike and bits in the back, or tow your race car with. 2014 Mercedes Sprinter 313 CDI race van. Look at that. Now, we've estimated this at 25 to 27. What that would have cost to buy and build, I do not know, but I can imagine you could at least double it. 221,000 miles on this. It's ready for racing, camping, whatever you want it to be. Because you buy a T5 or a T6, don't you? And they're fantastic vans, don't get me wrong. The problem with the T5 or a T6, they don't have a huge amount of room. Do take the time to go onto the listing of this and have a look at the interior shots. It is unbelievable. Also, when we say brand new fit out, we mean brand new fit out as it's just been fitted out. So it's all ready to go, sleep 3 to 4, do 3 days off grid. So if you're going to go remote camping, because don't forget if you go to Scotland, you can do wild camping for free. It's got an unused sink, an unused microwave, an unused toilet. That's always nice, particularly for the ladies. They don't like a used toilet in their camper vans. A lot of work has gone into it. A lot of money has been spent. You can buy it for a fraction of what it costs to put together. So there you go. That's your camper van. That's your home from home. That's your race season sorted. I mean, look at the size of it. I mean, I'm 6'4". I'm a big lad. I would imagine... Is it open? No. I would imagine I could probably stand in this. We might have to do a separate video on this one for you because it's too cool. But the condition is extraordinary. I mean, if that was a new build, that would be 100 grand. Unbelievable. Really nice looking, I think, as well. They've done it to a very cool standard. You can imagine that with your sponsors and race graphics down the side. Now, the world is going mad, rightly so. There's a new Toyota Land Cruiser out at the moment. They are just the best trucks. They always say, if you want to go into the desert, take a Land Rover. If you want to come back again, take a Land Cruiser. They are just mega. They go on for gazillions of miles. If you look after them, there's nowhere they can't go. The residual values on these are insane. They just never really lose any money if you buy a good one. But this one, my friends, is no reserve. So it's a Colorado 3-litre GX, one owner from new, with 204,000 miles. You see, I wasn't lying about the mileage. That's running in mileage on a Land Cruiser. Diesel engine, it's manual, 7-seater, original bill of sale. Got some new grabber tyres on there as well, book pack and wallet. What a thing. I think because the new Land Cruiser's come out and it's so expensive now, I think it will pull the price of the earlier Land Cruisers up. I think these are a really pleasant looking thing. Now, I don't know with a square plate, this is quite possibly a JDM import. And I say looking at the seat fabric, it probably is. I prefer that. I actually prefer the JDM spec cars. They're much better specs. The time they spend in Japan, they don't get any corrosion at all. And this could be the bargain of the sale. It's easily got another 100,000 left in it if you look after it. These diesels go on forever. I've seen these with 500,000 miles on. So at 200, I wouldn't worry too much. Just to enjoy the saving. Great car. I would like to own that. Oh, look at the things it's had in 2003. There's oil change bills, engine service bills, lots basically. It's been looked after. There's a few little tiny marks on it, but do you know what? For what it is, get it bought. Now, Range Rover County 2.5D, no reserve. I shouldn't be looking at this. I think these are great. Great looking thing. 114,000 miles, automatic of course. Been with the current owner since 2015. 8 stamps in the service book on this.
This is going to be inexpensive. Someone's put Discovery wheels on, which I don't dislike, I have to say. The steps are quite cool as well. It's got a tow bar and it was driven here. So would you like an inexpensive Range Rover that looks the part? Let's have a look at the interior. That's nice. Leather's in very good nick. The tint, it's funny tints. Tints at one time were privacy glass, should we call it. At one time we were putting them on. I'm going through my take tints off phase now. So everything I've put tints on, I take off because I think they look even more old money without the tints on. So the tints, I'm sure, is just film. You could take that off if that wasn't your bag. Or just leave it like it is. It's quite street, isn't it? If you're a young aspiring rap star on a bit of a budget that likes to occasionally off-road or tow a horse box, you've just found your vehicle. And it's no reserve. Interesting to think that's 2001, so that's a 24-year-old car. That is a bona fide classic, my friends. The Range Rover. Right, another Land Cruiser. This is one I would very much like in the Cowland collection. Doesn't this look good? This is the best Land Cruiser shape, no doubt, for me anyway. 1989, TDVX this one. 166,000 mile. That stonking chrome bumper, and it looks really level, I have to say. It's good on the body, seems to be very good around the glass. Short wheelbase, of course. Manual. Look at this seat fabric, Fraser. Look at this. Can you think of anything more 80s than this? Now, you'd buy this for somewhere between 10 and 12. And again, talking of markets that are certainly coming up in the world, whereas things like Mark II Jags and E-types are gently softening, things like Austin Healey's are softening off, this stuff, 80s and 90s off-roaders, starting to fly. I think this would be a very clever car to buy if you're looking for something you can take to a show, use, tow, enjoy, but actually make a few quid. I think these are money in the bank, I really do. You don't see many of this shape at all. Loads of invoices, receipts, some older MOTs, a set of spare keys. And that does not look like a 36-year-old truck. You might want to maybe do something. Yeah, the wheels are okay. The wheels probably just want to polish actually on the chrome. That's not heavy pitting. The front bumper's in very good nick. A couple of light dents. Chrome just gone in a couple of places. But you have to check on this because that's a hard thing to get. That's a nice truck. I'd own that in a heartbeat. Now, do you remember, if you're old like me, you'll remember when these were on every street corner. The man was coming out, fitting your phone line, putting early internet in before that was even a thing. Late 90s BT van. And this is a genuine one. This is not a recreation. This, my friends, is the real deal. 97,000 miles, 1997, Escort 55 1.8D. What's a thing? 5 stamps in the service book with 10 further invoice. It's had a new cam out in 2021, a new clutch and rear conditioned gearbox in 2022, 2 sets of keys. Now, what would you do with this? Well, I think you'd have a lot of fun at historic commercial vehicle shows. Maybe you were a BT engineer in the 90s and you want to relive your golden period, or maybe you're a Ford collector and you just want something that was once practically street furniture in the UK. These were everywhere, and then all of a sudden they weren't. I think we've probably got the best one left. What would you pay for that? You would pay somewhere between £5,000 and £6,000 for that. And I think, were you to go to a commercial vehicle or classic car show, everybody would come and talk to you. I like classics that are a little bit different, that have a story, that have a relevance socially. That one really does. I think you'll have more conversations filling that one up at the petrol station than probably some of the Bentleys and Rolls Royces we're going to look at later on today. This is just phenomenal. We were talking earlier about Mercedes. I think these represent something of a bargain. This period of Mercedes, the noughties, this mid-90s, I think is the last of what I would call the bomb-proof Mercedes. Don't take that literally. This is not literally bomb-proof or bulletproof, but this is when they were very much building them up to a quality rather than down to a price. This generation of S500, to me, is the last true Mercedes. This one is phenomenal because it's done 52,000. We do like to get these in. Another vehicle that will do astonishing mileage without even blinking, but this one has only done 52,000. Loads of bills, MOT histories going back to 1999 to back up that ridiculous mileage, so we do think that is genuine. And it is an S500. Ultimate wafter. Look at it. It's really nice. There's a little scuff on the front bumper because it is a big old bus. You're trying to park this. There's a scuff there. That's 150 quid to put right. But apart from that, super level. Screen's not delaminated, which can sometimes happen on these. And you're going to pay somewhere between £6,000 and £8,000. And I cannot think of what else you would buy for that sort of money.
Rolls-Royce, Bentley, anything that would have quite that level of cool. They'd be quite that nice to drive. And S-Class, if you've not driven one from this period, they just waft. It just epitomises the word waft. Say you bought that with your fees for 8 something grand. It's ridiculous, ridiculous. Have a look what they were when they were new. Very nice, 8-hole alloys, 4-speed auto on that one. There's invoices on file for £13,000 and a stamped book going up to 2023. So it probably needs a service now. And a couple of tiny little minor cosmetics. But that you could daily. If you don't mind the fuel bill, you don't do a huge amount of miles, that you could daily. Other cars you could daily drive as a modern classic. And people say, Paul, you're stupid, you couldn't drive a car like this. Think of the fuel bill. If you are buying a car that's not really going to lose a huge amount of money, even if you're paying more on fuel, this is man maths for you now, it's not going to make much difference. If you are spending £400 leasing a new car that you will never see again, that does 45 mpg, buy something like this that you pay for once, somewhere between 6.5, 7.5 grand. And even if you're doing 25 mpg, it's about the same. Difference is you own the vehicle. So this is an XFR 5 litre Japanese import. I love Jap imports, as I said before, because they don't salt the roads, they use distilled mineral water effectively. So underneath the car of a Japanese import is always so much nicer than the equivalent British car. This one's done 86,000 miles, it's auto. The performance of these, don't be fooled by the fact they look a little bit executive saloon. This is just a muscle car, basically. They're astonishingly quick. Mega history, loads of invoices going back, all the way from 1,500 miles. Please have a look at those. It's a service pretty much every 10 or 12,000 miles. Last service in 2022 at 83, and the car now has 86. So again, due a service, but last service only 3,000 miles ago. Serviced a JLR specialist at 85,000 miles, so no, it doesn't need a service, including repair, manifold, pipework and fittings, new gaskets, 1,240 quid, spent 1,000 miles ago. There's no such thing as a sure thing in any used car, but I think that's got to be as close as you can get. Lots of money spent, lots of money just spent. If you want to be very comfortable and drive very, very fast and make fabulous noises, that's your car. Now, I won't comment on where Jag's going and what they're doing. I think they've been quite brave and clever, but this, again, Jag at the height of their powers, making big, full-fat V8s in very luxuriously appointed cars in very nice shapes, designed by my good friend Ian Callum. Get one of his finest works. Or, if you want a more retro-styled, how about the XJR 4.2? A little bit slower, but still astonishingly fast, these. I like these very, very much. I like the older XJ shape. This one's done 99,000 miles with one previous owner. Again, same kind of money, 5 to 6 grand to buy this. Great condition for the age of miles. 2 keys, the Cherish plate stays on it. Quite a rare old bus, these now. And in very, very nice colourway and condition. Now, I've come in my old XJ today. It is, what's that? That's a 4 litre V8. I'm getting about 29 to the gallon out of that. And I am loving it. But it was 800 quid. And I spent, I don't know, £1,000 a year for the last 2 years to keep it going. I just think these old Jags are the perfect way to get to work. I've got a huge amount of love for the Jag design language through all of its periods, but they are a really usable classic. Find yourself a good specialist. They don't need to be too scary to do that. We think this has got a tracker on it, although we haven't got the paperwork, but it still seems to be live. And it's got wonderful history on that. So as I say, 5 to 6 grand, you could smoke that about. Another Ian Callum car, one of his finest works. And these are now getting almost criminally cheap. I think these would be like the XGSs. These are the XK 4.2. The XGS kind of went down, reached sort of the bottom of its value curve, and then bounced up. And I think what you've got now is the same situation with the XKs. This, I think, is about as cheap as they will get. Because you're getting almost the look of an F-Type. And I think one of the most beautifully balanced designs of the time, this is 2007, for single figure thousands. That cannot sustain because they just look too good. They look way more expensive than they are. Recent service, it's got an XKR exhaust, had a new battery, which is really important on these as well. It's got a fresh MOT, and we do love a vendor that MOTs a car before they put it in, because they know it's decent. They know that it's going to go through that MOT and give you peace of mind before you buy. What else can I tell you on this? Old V5C, lots of old MOT certificates, a bundle of invoices. And it's really clean and level. Being super pedantic, a couple of tiny marks on the wheel. But that car does not look nearly 20 years old, does it?
That is a really pretty car. Again, probably worth a slight bit of headlight discoloration. Get those flatted and polished. And I think you'll have a car there. That's timeless, truly timeless. One of the best looking Jags of the last 25 years, I would say that is. XK8, a little bit more 90s in its design language, but no less pretty. Great car. This is a 4 litre, this one. Huge, huge performance from these. No reserve, automatic. It's got the Montreals, which is the 20-inch split wheel, which is one of my favourite Jag wheels, actually. They are quite expensive. Do yourself a favour, go online on the eBays and look what a set of 20-inch Montreals goes for. That's an expensive wheel. This car has them on already. Great service history, had a recent gearbox rebuild, and was driven 100 miles here to our showroom as well. Tons and tons of photos on this one. It's had an oil and filter service, timing chains done, floor mats, parking sensors repaired. It had a dash cam fitted. It's got a nice spec. Someone's loved this car, you can tell. But I don't think it's going to be a lot of money. I really don't. And those wheels are in astonishingly good condition. Because the Montreal is a big wheel. It's a very easy wheel to curb. I even like the colour. Do you know what? I might have a cheeky bid on that myself, team. I think that could be a fantastic daily driver, that. All of these cars we're talking about, buy them, use them, have some fun with them, beat the system. Don't get a lease car. With a few exceptions, most modern cars aren't as interesting as everything that we're going to show you here today. So just, who knows how long petrol driving lasts? Who knows how long 140 a litre will last? So let's enjoy it while we can. Again, the hits keep coming, don't they? I don't know how the team have done this. Not only a really interesting and great car, so 156 GTA 3.2, V6, 24 valve, super rare car anyway, but also with the body kit, look. Just take a moment to drink that in. Going to be a nice, inexpensive car, this one. It's done 136,000 miles. It's a manual, of course. Just a rare, rare old bus. They really are. Low ownership car. I can't even think of the last time I saw a fully kitted V6. You don't see that many 156s, do you? Isn't it brilliant? Let's talk about bills. Supplied new to its first owner in 2002. Full book pack from new, 11 stamps, loads of bills and receipts from a nice Alfa specialist, MVC in Manchester and Veloci in London. There's a lot of money spent. The only thing you've got to watch when you buy an old Alfa, well, to be fair, any old Italian car, is the maintenance. And this one seems to have had a lot of it. By all the right people. Cannot tell you how much I love that body kit, guys. Isn't that fabulous? That's a rare, rare, rare thing. 6 to 8. Find me another, as we occasionally say. So that's good, but would I spend my money on that? Quite possibly, but this is me. And I've actually got one of these, almost the identical models. This is a 2011 Subaru WRX STI. So Subaru obviously did rally-ins in the hatchback and then bought the saloon car out. Now the saloon's interesting because not many people know they did one. Also, without the rear wing, I think they're incredibly subtle. I don't have a rear wing on mine. I think they're better for it, I have to say. This one's done 118,000 miles. It's got a book pack and wallet, 13 main dealer stamps, matching set of Pirellis, driven here. These are just a great car. 280 brake, manual, crazy little flicky diff in the middle. It's a Subaru. If you look after it, get it maintained, it will go on forever. I love mine to bits. They're quite a big car, actually. They're a lot heavier than the old Impreza. So they're probably, again, suited for a little bit of spirited driving, but they also make a great motorway cruiser. And I think with the rear wing off like this, very, very subtle. So it's got a Pioneer unit upgrade. Oh, I wonder. So it's got the original Pioneer upgrade, which has got STI shown, which might have been fitted by Pioneer. Pioneer did a lot of show cars for Subaru UK. This might be one of those. A couple of little marks, bits and pieces, but it's not going to be an expensive car. Like I say, you could take that home for £8,000 to £9,000. You would drive home very quickly, or you would just accelerate to the legal speed limit very quickly, should I say. Because obviously we don't encourage you driving fast on the public highway. Honestly, I've got one. It's one of the best cars I've ever owned. Can't recommend that highly enough. This is interesting as well. Golf V5. Very rare engine combination on a Golf. So I think potentially a modern classic. They make such a great noise, these V5s as well. Automatic. This is the Golf Wafter. This is the car that you can cruise up and down the motorway making lovely burbly noises. One previous owner, loads of histories. There's not going to be many V5s for sale anyway. It's a V5 engine and it's an auto. So this is a really rare combination. 5-door. It's like the ultimate practical classic, isn't it, really? 5-door for the kids and dog, hatchback, also for wafting in and out of town, and it's no reserve. I think, excuse me, I think I'm going to have to speak to Mrs. Cowland before the auction because there's too many tempting no reserve cars. I'm going to have to bid on a few of these. So that is all the outside stuff. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell. And I'm going to go inside where it's warm and finish my coffee. So I've moved inside into the warm where we find lots of wonderful things from the 1930s. We've got this fabulous Austin. And George, what was the 30s like?
Well, unfortunately, I'm young enough to not remember the 30s, but old enough to know the 40s. And in front of us here is a beautiful Austin Escort.
It is gorgeous. Best we've seen this, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's a privilege to get cars like this that have been much loved and much restored. It was probably all brown originally, and this has got everything going for it in every way. I mean, the detail work on it, the finish on it, and actually, it'll boom along at 50 miles an hour.
Which is kind of all you want, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually you need to have a look at it and see, obviously we're going round, the original features with it, with the interior in every way. Shall I just nip round?
Yeah, Fraser, come and have a look around this side. So the interior is absolutely beautiful. So this has been with the previous owner for an awfully long time. The first owner had it for 27 years.
Absolutely.
Now this is obviously, I would guess, has been restored, or has it?
Well, looking at it the way it is, I think at some stage it will have had some treatment on it.
Yeah.
But there's enough wear in it, and when people retrim these cars, they don't go and do this beading around the edges of the seats like they did originally. There's lots of features that tell me that this interior is as near as close to originally it ever got. You know, the original pockets here for the maps and things like that. Sunshine roof. The windscreen, you know, is no heater, but the windscreen, you wind it out on a nice hot day to get the air floating through. And as you can see, it's a large 4-seater saloon. It's very interesting that this period, both Morris and Austin, and to a lesser extent Singer, made a range of cars, from baby cars, sports cars, to something that's a bit like this. They call it a sedan in America.
This is huge. This has got proper legroom, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, well it's even got little footrests down here, I think. If you look at this down here, look at that. Fold down footrests and things like that.
So comfortable.
It's the detail on this car.
So this is a 1535 4-cylinder, 4-speed gearbox as well on this, and even a rudimentary synchromesh.
Yeah. I don't think you have to rush it, but it is synchromesh. You don't have to worry about double declutching.
I do like a bit double declutching. I do it on everything, you know. Everything just, especially when it's cold. Even on my Porsche 997, because it's got the short shift on, I like a double declutch when it's cold because it just snicks in.
So you are old-fashioned.
Oh
after
yeah,
all.
I am
educating you.
You are, mate. But tell me some more highlights of this, because everywhere I look, the detailing is beautiful, but also to me, because of the size, the practicality, the reasonable speed, it's been converted to indicators, which is a really nice upgrade.
But subtly done. They're out of the way, but they're there. In the boot in here, there's a spare wheel and the jack and everything. But when it was restored, the interesting thing about it is somebody went to a lot of trouble, because I've had a look where the wood is and things like that, and it's beautifully done with all the detail I'd expect to see. And it is an older restoration, but it was done to a very, very high standard, as you can see now. And I quite like the brown, the pins around here. I mean, I feel it's beautifully done.
It really is. It was restored in 2000, George. This is a 25-year-old restoration.
It is.
And I'm a huge fan of cars that have sat in their paint and trim for that period of time, because it's a good restoration. Show us the motor, George, come on.
And if you look under here, now, this is what I think is very, very clever. Beautifully set out and everything. You know, you can obviously a very clean engine. But if you happen to have a problem with the cylinder head, what's in here? A spare gasket.
No.
Absolutely there. So if you happen to break down, and there's a little compartment for it to go as well. Now, I've seen that on more exotic cars, but I don't know what that says about Austin. I thought the cylinder, but they actually had a...
Well, to be fair, anyone who's got a K-Series MGF will be going, yeah, I need one of those.
Yeah, but isn't that a lovely feature that goes in there? I mean, I wonder how long that bit of paper has been on there.
Isn't it fabulous?
Yeah, it is.
It's a lovely older restoration, but despite that, because this 30 stuff is a softer market, it's not going to be an enormous amount of money. We've guided this at $7,500 to $8,500.
Oh yeah, you couldn't restore it for that kind of money.
No.
And I think what I'm going to say about these cars is the market is soft for them, but somebody could enjoy buying this car, have a lot of fun with it, And over the years, I've seen Austins go up and down by £400 or £500. They never go up a lot, they never come down a lot.
Yeah.
So I think your money buying one of these is very, very safe. But look at this, all that on there
It's
for the
gorgeous.
sound, Devin.
Absolutely love it.
Lovely, neat wiring, the cut-out box, alternators, nice Jubilee clips. I know it sounds daft, but I look at the detail here and I can see that this has been much loved. And in fact, I'm sure somebody would enjoy owning it.
I couldn't agree more, George. There you go. That could be yours. Somewhere between 7.5 and 8.5. George, would you join me later? I've got a pickup to look at later. I'd really appreciate your thoughts on.
What's the pickup?
I'm not telling you.
Right, well, we're going to do this now.
Yeah. Let's do this one. Do you go straight into this one? Come on then. 1950. Now, George, I've never even seen one of these.
Nor have I.
This is a one of one. This comes from our very, very good friend Gordon. This, I am standing next to a car, and that's the beauty of this job. We've got a few in this sale that I have never seen, only in a book. I've only ever seen one of these in a book.
What?
1952 Fiat 1900A. Tell me the story, George.
All right, well, it would appear that it's the only one possibly in existence that's right-hand drive. It was made in Milan or in Italy, and obviously went and spent its early life in South Africa. What's good about that time that she spent in South Africa, where there's no salt and everything like that, it's in very, very good condition. I'll show you under the bonnet what I mean by that. But it's rare in the fact that it is a full four-seater. Looking at it, it has a lot of style about the Vauxhall Wyverns of the time.
Yeah, it does.
There's a lot of American influence with the chrome. So American cars in the 50s, they loved chrome. Big bumpers, great big brass radiators, whatever it is. And I think that somewhere the stylists that decide to do this is what the car
It's like
is.
a 7/8 Yank, isn't it? It's like a.
It is. It
It's
absolutely.
actually a very big car for
It is.
a 1950s European car. It's huge.
But I'll just.
Bench seat on the front, of course, as well. It's on 44,000. I adore the colour.
Yeah.
And I guess seating for a compact 6. If you wanted to, you could squeeze 6 of you in there.
Well, that's
I don't
what
know who
this-
gets the gear knob between their legs, though. That's the thing.
Well, there's no answer to that question that we should actually publish. But what I'm about to say is it's very much the bench seat, which was very much of the 50s in America. But of course, you've got this where you can bring down and you put the extra person in it. But actually, what used to happen from my experience of this time,
Yeah.
because I was around, if you were a child, you sat on there.
So you get a better view.
So your dad, your mum, and you were sat in the middle.
And never mind
Look-
seatbelts. We didn't need those.
What
then,
were they?
no. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's your mum and dad with your safety belts. But what's lovely about this car, how rare it is the fact it's its detail. You know, all the panelling. Look inside here, even a little push-button radio. Now, to build a radio in a car in that time was very, very advanced because there was very few radios went into cars.
It's beautifully done. And also, this car's been commissioned by our friends at Bridge Classic Cars. They're a wonderful company, family business, and the way that they look after the cars and prep their vehicles is extraordinary. So I think with this one, you're getting a no questions car, not only a rarity, but something that you can just jump in, use and enjoy. And it's not going to be a huge amount of money, George. £7,000 to £9,000.
Yeah.
I love the fact 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s stuff. It's just such good value at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Look at that.
now, I love looking at all classic cars that have been much used, but equally as well much loved and actually enjoyed. And looking under there, yes, I know there's no chromium plate, but everything is perfect. And when you feel all under the wings, you can still see the spot welding there, all here, the heating. They've had to make a new exhaust system. Look how cleverly they've made that down there. Obviously the horn, the wash bottle. This is a lovely car, and it could go anywhere.
Well, thank you for your thoughts on that, George. As I say, £7,000 to £9,000. We've guided that out. I don't think. If that was American, it would be a tiny bit bigger, harder to park, and it'd be 20 grand.
Yeah,
at least.
but just look at the chrome.
Fabulous.
Look how they've put the spot lamps in the side there. You know, a la Mini. Look at this. It's beautifully done. Little shields on that. Look at the feeling of the glass.
And we
there.
guarantee, if you buy this car, if you take it to your local car show, you will have the only one. It's very hard to say that for 9 grand, isn't it? Very
I
hard
think
to say
there's
that.
very few places in Britain you could take it and not see another one of these. It is an exceptional car, and when you look at there, if you were driving down the road and you saw that behind you, you think, well, what car's that? And you would not be able to guess because there's only a little Fiat badge there.
George, as ever, I really appreciate your insight. I'll see you later for a pickup. The amazing wisdom of George. I do love hanging out with George. I learned so much about his youth, but that is a very special car. You won't see another one of those at your local car show. I probably don't think you're going to see another one of these. You're looking at it, you're thinking, what is it? Is it a Maserati Ghibli? No, it isn't. Come and look around the back, look. It's a Carif. Good grief, it's a Carif. Look, this is the defining feature of this car. Again, when did you last see one of these? Some of you may not even know this model existed. Very, very rare car, this one. 1989 Maserati Carif. I think it is absolutely fabulous. It's almost like Maserati did a convertible and then put a factory hardtop on it. So it's a coupe, 38,000 manual, stunning looking right-hand drive car with those gorgeous Y-spoke wheels on. Just phenomenal. I think this is only the second one I've seen in my life in the flesh. They're not exactly common, these. Fantastic history, 285 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. So they are a genuine performance car. This is a Ferrari equivalent, but just much, much rarer. And for that reason, I would say, much, much cooler. Condition of this is phenomenal. The history on it is phenomenal. It's chassis number 9 as well. Paint is almost perfect. There's a couple of very, very minor, just polish imperfections. All of that will mop out for sure. I think this car could be made into concours quality car very, very easily. But because it isn't a Ferrari, I mean, let's just boil that down for a second. Imagine it's a Ferrari of that period. So 89, it's going to be a 348 probably. You're going to be spending 40, 50 grand. This is going to be 15 to 17. It's just as fast. It is rarer. I think it's more interesting and more cool. I think it's less try hard than buying a Ferrari. I would like to own that car. Just because no one else has one. You probably noticed that about my car choice. But look at the quality of the leather. Look inside. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Again, mega history, supercar, lots and lots of lovely stories with that one. Please check the history file if you're interested in buying it. It is very good. And please come and have a look at all the photos of the car. It presents beautifully. Now, if you'd like an Italian car, believe it or not, this is the crazy thing. That, you could probably buy it for 15 to 18 or so. This is more because it is electric. If you want to drive around in the classic car and you'd like to feel really smug about your use of carbon whilst doing so, this is the one. So this is a Fiat 500F, that much you can see, fully electric converted. So it's got 45,000 showing. It's got Tesla battery packs with 120 miles range, and I really like the colour. I think it's Porsche Viper Green, I would say, actually. You could put it back to standard, but I do think there is some fun. I don't think I'll ever become an electric car advocate, but I have been driving a lot of electric car recently for my own education, and I do find them quite a lot of fun because there's a lot more torque. I mean, don't forget, even if you had a 595 conversion in one of these, they're not that quick. So I would imagine this is probably going to be a lot more wallop. And 120 miles in one go is probably about as far as you want to go in a Fiat 500 anyway. So that's a really interesting thing. 25 to 27, you wouldn't be able to do that. You wouldn't be able to build that car for that much. The body is sensationally good in a really nice colour. The interior is lovely. So I guess if you want to live in London or one of those big cities and you want something that's not going to wake everybody up and make any crazy smells, I would have thought as well, because if it's correctly registered as an EV, you should be able to drive in all the EV lanes. Easy to charge, easy to drive. So yeah, 21 kilowatt hour battery packs, and it's got regen braking. Very, very clever conversion, that. Now, if you'd prefer a more traditional Fiat 500 in a no less attractive colour, we've also got this one, left-hand driver, of course, 1971, this one. This is a little bit more what you're expecting, so therefore a lot less money. That one's going to be 6.5 to 7.5 grand, that one. Imported into the UK from Italy, as you might imagine, in 2020. Really lovely interior on this one as well. Matching set of Cinturatos, which always tells me that it's a decent vendor. And it looks very much like a rust-free shell. These left-hand drive Fiat 500s, I think, represent spectacular value over the right-hand drive ones. They're always about a grand or two cheaper. The downside to a left-hand drive car is you can't overtake. It's a Fiat 500. You can't overtake anyway. So don't worry about that. And being a city car, what is great about a left-hand drive car is you're on the pavement side. So literally, step out and there you go. So I would say if you're going to use it as it was intended for pootling around and parking in tiny spaces, that's the one you want. Left-hand drive, enjoy the saving, enjoy the fact it's a rust-free shell, love the colour, and yeah, that's about as cheap as you can get a nice 500 for. Now we've got here, look at this. For your she shed or man cave, would you care for a petrol pump, 19 something or other, we don't know what year it is.
It's got to be early. Does it tell me on there? From Liverpool. Theo & Co petrol pump just arrived. That's why the detail is a little scant. I'm not sure if it still pumps petrol or even if you have any petrol to pump it from, but doesn't it look good? Between £500 and £700, you could have that in your collection. I'm just starting to do my garage up now, so I'm just looking for things like this that can sort of sit around. That's why I bought a few bikes recently, because bikes make great set dressing. Stuff like this really does make a huge difference. If you're a car collector and you just want something in the background, this is how it used to be done. Or if you're a props buyer, it's all there. Look at that. It's beautiful condition, I have to say. So a genuine Theo & Co petrol pump, £500, £700, you can have that in your collection. We've also got as well, I'm just going to show you all of these. I won't do a full walk around because I'm sure you can imagine it. We've got all these fabulous signs. Do make sure that you've had a look at those. So they're all brand new replicas. So they're in the style of, but they are very much in the precise style of. So again, if you're looking for stuff to your garage, your workshop, your man cave, your she shed, all of this stuff will make it look absolutely superb. So how about a Fiat 500 Abarth evocation? So not a real Abarth, but certainly doing a very passable impression of one. 1971. It's got the paint, it's got the decals, it's got the standoffs on the deck lid. Doesn't it look great? It's got a 650 engine, this one, from a Fiat 500 from Ricambi. So it's a £2,900 engine upgrade on there. Foldback roof on there as well. Correctly registered as historic, so you won't be paying MOT, you won't be paying tax. What a thing. Bullet style door mirrors, which I really like as well. The difference between a 500 and a 650, 150cc doesn't sound like all that. Believe me, on these, it is like night and day. We did one on the show, we took a 500 to a 595. That was almost twice as fast. So I'd imagine this at 650 is an absolute flying machine. You get all the fun of an Abarth for fractions of Abarth money. And we always talk about cars where you get the nod. Cars that you can turn up at a car show and you just get the real aficionados, enthusiasts, just giving you that nod that says, I respect your choices. And I think that is very much the kind of car. Even if you're at someone that has Bugattis, Bentleys, Rolls Royces, turn up in an Abarth evocation. You'll get the nod, I guarantee it. Now, I recently had the pleasure of doing an evening with Ian Callum at the British Motor Museum, which sold out, and Ian was phenomenal. As you might imagine, talking about his incredible design. Our next one at the British Motor Museum is Mr. Peter Stevens, who is no less of a genius and no less brilliant with his pen. This is one of his finest works. Of course, he took Giugiaro's Esprit and made it right for the late 80s, early 90s. Not an easy thing to do, to take a Giugiaro masterpiece and make it better. Somehow, Peter managed it, and this was the result. In 1994, this one, so getting towards the end of the model's life, they went to the late 90s, these, and they got better and better looking. They got gentle additions, little aero additions, and they look really good. What I love about this one, so it's an S4 turbo, so it's actually when the Esprit started to get genuinely quick. Really stunning car. I say it's Peter's design, 61,000 miles, so it's a great mileage. It's low enough, you're not worried about it. It's high enough that you're going to use the car. An MOT till August 2025. Great colour and trim combo. MOT, I say, all the way through to the almost the end of the year. Loads of invoices for work and even a Lotus registration. Red with black, you will never go wrong with. Everybody always wants to buy a red sports car with a black interior. It's a constant in life. What can I tell you about bills? Original owner's handbook, service stamps all the way up to 58,000 miles, loads of bills going all the way back to 2005, all parts purchased and work undertaken. These still look like phenomenal value. If that was Italian of that period with that performance, that would be a 50 or 60,000 pound car. You'll buy that for somewhere between 19 and 21. So Lotus, to me, does look like exceptional value against its Italian counterparts, and it's plastic, so it won't rot. It can rot underneath. This one's really nice underneath. And of course, there are photos. So do take your time to have a look through the book pack, go through the videos, have a look what's in there. And I think you'll like that very much. But now I'm going to join my good friend George by an Austin pickup. We're now entering a phase of the auction called cars that your dad probably had. And bizarrely, this model of Cavalier, the GL, my dad had not only this model, he had this colour with this interior. So I'm getting massive flashbacks. My entire childhood was basically spent in the back of this car. And I do think the Cavalier is one of the coolest looking cars because the Vauxhall got this rather nice, I think it was Wayne Cherry did the front of these. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But we got this, the Opel wasn't quite as pretty. But the Cabriolet for a 70s car was very aerodynamic and very groovy looking. This is a club member owned car and it really shows it's very, very clean. And I might just have to have a bid on this myself just for the pure nostalgia. It is identical in every respect to my dad's cars. The chrome row styles with the trim rings, the red interior, he had this same steering wheel. I think his was a 79 as well. Full history file going all the way back to the 80s. MOT all the way through to June 25. It's a historic vehicle, so no tax for you, no MOT for you. Super practical, usable classic. Like I said, this was our daily driver car. And matching Michelins. Isn't that a lovely thing? Now, Vauxhalls, for whatever reason, incorrectly I think, because I think they're super stylish and lovely to drive, do not command the Ford tax. We're going to come to a very lovely Ford in just a second. You'd buy that for 5 to 6 grand. It is a show quality car. And the more you look, if you come and look inside, look, Fraser. Look in here, mate, look. Let the lovely people see. It's just pristine. And looks largely original. So the mileage says 53,000 miles. I would say, looking at that interior, which doesn't look restored, I would say that's probably genuine. How is that only 5 to 6 grand? I will have to have a bid on that, purely for nostalgia's sake. But that's what makes classic cars so great, isn't it? It's the cars you grew up with, the cars your dad had, the car you went to school in. And what did he have before he had that? He had a Mark III Cortina. There you go. Whoever's put these together like this, absolutely brilliant. 1971, Ford Cortina, 1300L. This one, my friends, 24,000 miles from new. That was done 50 odd, 24,000 miles. I think if you were after one of these, it is only a 1300L, so you could argue it's not the best spec. I would very much argue it is the best colour. Can you think of a more perfect 70s colour than this? Isn't it brilliant? 3 former keepers with the current owner since 2013. It's had a new Weber carbon fuel pump fitted. It's still got the original bulbs fitted. And it had a sympathetic restoration in the 1990s, so not too much. So what you're seeing, so it's had some paint in the 90s. There are a couple of micro blisters I did see in the roof. I'm being pedantic. There you go. A couple of little micro blisters in the roof. Interior is phenomenal. And so brown, so brown. It's got the book pack and wallet. I like this car very much. It is a 1300L. So not only is it the base model pretty much, it is the 1300s. You will literally be able to run faster than this car, but it doesn't matter. It just looks so stylish. This is what they call the Coke bottle Cortina, because you get these gorgeous hips, which are very reminiscent of American cars of the 70s. So think of cars like the Dodge Challenger. They had those beautiful hips, and Ford managed to put it into a family saloon that your dad could buy for really sensible amounts of money. And having said that, despite the ridiculously low mileage, which we do think is genuine looking at all of the incredible condition and paperwork, this car's £7,000 to £8,000. That's the beauty of it being a more basic model. Were this a GXL, I think you could be looking well into the teens. But 7 to 8, you could drive that round. They'll love you at Ford shows, they'll love you at classic car shows. And again, just a usable, daily driven classic. Fraser's just walking into the bike behind him, if you're wondering why there's a slight pause there. Now, if you haven't seen my colleague Ed's fantastic video on the Maxi yet, do watch that. What Ed doesn't know about British sailing cars isn't worth knowing, and he is waxed lyrical on this and done a brilliant job of telling you the history, why they're so good. Now, these were the traditional model, so obviously saloon car, rear-wheel drive. The Maxi was very clever in its packaging. You might argue the styling wasn't to everybody's taste, but what you cannot argue against is the fact that they made the car probably much more the template that everybody follows subsequently. So you've got front wheel drive, massive cabin space because of that, and a hatchback and fold down rear seat. So of course, everybody did it later, but kind of the Maxi blazed the trail. This is a 1980, 1750, really nice car with 54,000 miles. So what we have here are 3 brilliant dad cars from the early, late 70s, and then this is a 1980. And then this, the Austin Maxi. I mean, look at the space as well. I remember one of my granddads had run a Maxi for a very short period of time. He was more of an Allegro man. But look at the space you get. It's ridiculous. So finished in beige with brown velour trim. We think it may have been grey. It might have had a colour change at some point. But we do think that mileage is genuine. From what we can see, that mileage looks genuine. It's had a tow bar on it, single electrics, which suggests it's a small trailer rather than a caravan. It's just great. Again, cars you don't see anymore. One of my mates, when we were 17, had a Maxi as his daily driver, simply because you can get so much gear in the back of them. They're absolutely brilliant. What would you pay for that? You're going to pay somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000. So if you've got 5 or 6, you could buy the Cavalier or the Maxi. A little bit more, you can buy the Cortina. A lot of good stuff going through the sale for really sensible money. This sold. Not surprised, really. This is part of our 3-stage sales process. So stage 1 of the 3-stage sales process is actually, if you want to make an offer on a car before the auction, we will always put that to our vendor. It's part of our duty of care. So in the case of this Golf, a very canny punter says, I don't want to go to auction. I don't want to take my chances. And he came to our vendor with a storming offer, which was very much what the vendor wanted. And obviously the vendor opted to take it. So if you see any car before the auction, you are always free to make an offer. It's going to need to be a chunky offer, at least the top estimate, to get the vendor interested, but we will always pass them on, and if the vendor wants to accept it, you will buy that vehicle. You don't have to go into battle with everybody else. We're here to serve our vendors at the end of the day. Now, a car we always like to get in because everybody loves them and they drive so well, Peugeot 205 GTi. Often fated as the best handling car of the 1980s, very hard to disagree with that. You're either, I think, a 205 GTi guy or a Golf GTi guy. I am a Golf GTi guy, but I hugely admire everything about the 205 GTi. A very good friend of mine, Darren, has a lot of these. And you can see why, if you drive them, they are just so flickable and fizzy and fun. This is a 1.9, so more power, more torque, a little bit more weight, but many prefer this, not least of all because you get the nicer 15-inch wheel, which I think is the defining wheel of the GTi period. This one's nice and price rangy, 126,000 miles in original specification. But the big thing, nearly all of these have sunroofs. The purists don't like a sunroof because obviously it's less stiff. You've got all the gubbins, you've got more corrosion. The real purists like a non-sunroof, which is what it is. That's desirable. Got some invoices for recent parts, some MOT certificates. And as I say, a manual car with 126,000 miles. Paint's pretty decent. It's had some paint. I can see some lacquer lip up against the seal there. But it's not an expensive car. The top of these can be 25 to 30 now for really exceptional ones. That's much more usable and presentable. If you're going to get it perfect, there's a tiny little bit of lacquer deformation there. I'm being super picky. Guaranteed you wouldn't notice, honestly. Just enjoy it. 10 to 12, absolutely phenomenal little car, that one. It's clean, it's tidy, and ready to go. Now, a car that I sold a few of when they were new, the RB5, 1999, the Richard Burns 5. Obviously, Burnsy, one of the greatest rally drivers ever to pedal a Subaru. Sadly, no longer with us. But when he was at the height of his powers and got his championship, this was the first of the cars that Subaru UK built as a special to commemorate his rally win. What was interesting about this is this colour and this shell was a JDM colour and a JDM shell. We never got this in the UK, this colour. It was STI only, but Subaru UK spec'd these up. Very, very nice. Based on a turbo, with the mid-level wing. There's a great club for these, and they do command a massive premium over a standard turbo. This one's done 87,000. It's number 285 of 444. It's had a new clutch, 1,500 miles ago. It's got it's got a really good history file. It's had a recent oil and filter change as well. So underneath all of that beautiful colour, it's basically a Turbo 2000, but don't underestimate the value that the Richard Burns added. They got the STI seats. You got the Speedline split spoke alloys. Now, some of them were ProDrive converted. I don't think this one is. You could get a ProDrive performance pack on top. I don't think this one's got it. So this is completely standard. These were very cool and unique to the RB5 as well, the headlight covers. I would say this car's been painted, but it's been painted very, very well. Potential bargain, that is 10 to 12. I think that's very well guided for what it is. I've seen these go for a lot more money, to be fair, with lower mileage, but in not such nice condition. So what you've got here is a higher mileage car with very, very nice paint and a really good history. I would have a cheeky bit at that. That could be very good news. But also, do not underestimate, in this world where everybody's raving about the GR Yaris, what a brilliant road car the old Impreza is. It's just a phenomenal car. Between 2 points on the map, they are still one of the most entertaining cars. And at 10 to 12 grand, that won't bust the bank. That cannot lose money if you look after it. It really can't. Moving on to the Triumph Stag, 1971 Stag. Now this is lovely, look at this. Fantastic condition. Still one of the nicest ways to waft along with the V8 soundtrack in the summer.
This one's done 96,000. And it says it has a factory hardtop, so don't forget that. If you're bidding from afar, there is a full factory hardtop for this. It is manual, it's correctly registered as a historic vehicle. And aren't the Stags unbelievable value? Everybody worries about a Stag overheating. This one's got a Ken-Lo fan, viscous coupling and waterless coolant, so the owner has ticked the boxes. The seats are in nice condition on as well if you have a look. The dash is very good on it. A few spares and a nice motor litre wheel. You could buy that car, you could take it home. The paint is very, very nice on this. Tiny bit of light swirling, so I would give it a correction if you want to make it absolutely show quality. Or just use it as a lovely daily driver. The manual with overdrive is just such a nice place to be. What's it worth? 12 to 14. They really have come down to a very sensible figure, these Stags now. It's interesting, isn't it? The 60s and 70s stuff is just starting to soften. And don't look at it as a bad thing. If you're thinking, I want a car that's going to make me loads of money that I can invest in that will definitely go up. And that's making people think I won't buy a 50s or 60s or even early 70s car. Don't think of it that way. Think of the fact that you can now buy a lot more car for your money than you could 5 years ago. And yes, it might not make any money, but you won't care. That's not why we buy classic cars. We buy them to enjoy them, to have fun, to make friends, to make memories. This car will do that in spades. It might not be the best investment car here, but it's easily one of the most fun. So buy it for that reason. Now moving on to one of the stars of the show. Oh, look at this. You need to film this from the front, Fraser. The 1988 Carrera Targa Supersport. This is a rare bird, this one. So the Supersport, if you don't know, is kind of the best of all worlds. So everybody loved the Carrera because it was such a drivable car, normally aspirated, relatively cheap to run, not crazy performance, just enough. But of course, who didn't like the turbo? Because you've got the wide arches, got the whale tail. So Porsche came up with the idea in the 80s of the Supersport, which is basically to give the yuppies a car that looked like a turbo, less expensive to buy, more sensible performance and running costs. That is this car. But a Targa Supersport, so Targa's a rare version anyway, this is such a rare thing. And believe it or not, everything you see, even down to the bright red steering wheel, was specified from new. Now we've guided this at 60 to 65, it's done 72,000 miles, it is a manual, it is in beautiful condition. But I know I keep stressing it, cannot stress enough, for you to go and find another Targa Supersport, good luck. In any condition, never mind in this kind of condition. So the vendor has told us, it's quite a charming story, bought new in the UK by its first owner as his company car and then changed into his personal car, put into storage for a long time, and our current vendor acquired it in 2014 and had it recommissioned at enormous expense. Most of the paintwork though, we think, is incredibly well maintained original. Lots of invoices with the car, obviously it's had a time where it's been sleeping. It's got hi-fi upgrades, Supersport equipment, amp system, windscreen top tint, and a trimmed luggage compartment. If you are a Porsche collector, you need this. If you want your first 911 G series, I would say this is probably the one to get. Because turbo cars are good, but they're very expensive. Like I say, 60 to 65, this could be in your driveway or in your garage. Largely original. I would love this. I've got a flat nose in the same colour, so I've got a guard red, flat nose, wide body, convertible. They'd look so good together, wouldn't they? Wonderful thing. Now, if you want something equally magical, so the idea of the Supersport was something that looked way more expensive than it was. Talking of which, how about a short wheelbase 912? Now, if this was a 911, we'd be talking enormous amounts of money, but it isn't. It's 912. And the beauty of that is, so 4-cylinder engine, and the purists would say that car's better balanced. I've driven quite a few 912s. They're not as fast as a 911, but because you've got less weight hanging out the back, they're actually in some ways a much nicer drive. This one is lovely, 1966, again, incredibly rare, but because you're not buying a 911, you're probably half the price of a short wheelbase 911. It's done 37,000 miles, standard spec. We think it's come from Belgium in 1973, and it's been long-term with the current owner. What else can I tell you? It's got nice Fuchs replica wheels on, so they are a replica. They're a very good replica, but they're not quite the real deal. Original Becker radio, 5-speed box, which is a brilliant upgrade as well. So just beautifully done. What I love about this is the real purists don't care that it's a 4-cylinder car. In fact, if you go to a Volkswagen meet, you'll be treated like a god if you go in this. Because it's a lower number, in some ways it's weird, isn't it? The cheaper slower, less cylindered 912 has actually become in many circles a cooler car than a 911, and you'll pay less money for it. Amazing specification. Do take your time to read through the description on that. It is chunky, to say the least. And we've seen concourse cars go for 100 grand. So this, which is exceptionally well presented, for about 40 something, you probably buy that for. I think that's potentially the bargain of the sale. I think we'll look back on these and think that was a blessed good buy. I say 40 to 45, we've estimated that at. So that's what Germany were doing in the 60s. What were Britain doing? Well, this is 70s to be fair. One of my favourites, I do love a Jag XJ. I've come in a 90s XJ today to work. They just waft. And this is a 4.2. Isn't it beautiful? Absolutely beautiful. So right for its time, 1976, the hot summer, the vinyl roof, no air conditioning, and then the leather. Can you imagine what that would have been like sitting in the summer of 76? But look at the condition. Look how beautifully this car's been restored. This is a collector quality car, this one. It's got a fresh MOT, even though it's been exempt. It's been in a collection of someone we know very well that really loves and looks after their cars. So it's certainly a money no object maintenance on this car. Now what's interesting is there was a similar car, probably to about the same quality, that Jaguar Classic sold on their stand at the NEC show. I think that went for 24 grand. We've guided this at 15 to 17, which I think is astonishingly good value. It's the perfect colour for the 1970s. It's got the MOT, it's got some money spent on it recently, new top mounts, new headlights, new power steering, service has been done. Now it's showing 18,000 on the odometer. There's nothing to say that's not true. There's a lot of original parts on this car that look like it's a low mileage car. We can't say for sure it's done 18,000, but it's not screaming like it's done a lot of mileage, particularly with the interior parts. So like I say, 15 to 17, the last one this nice I saw got sold at the NEC for 24. I think that's a bit of a bargain. And aren't they pretty, these cars? They're such a good looking car. If Jags are your thing, moving on, how about 1965 E-type 4.2? Of course, what you're basically buying when you buy an E-type is this. You're buying that engine with a bit of car stuck on the back. Come and have a look at that, Fraser. 5,800 miles since rebuild. It's had a great paint and trim combination. It's been previously restored to a high standard with lovely photographic evidence, if you want to have a look at that. We've got invoices and bills going all the way back to the 60s. It comes with a spare parts catalogue and service manual and its heritage certificate. Can't even say it. It's recently been partially recommissioned, so you've probably got a little bit of work to do. But what this car is, despite the phenomenal condition, is very price rangey. So this is 45 to 50. So if you know what the top of the E-type market is for a 65 car, you've got all the prettiness of the early cars, which normally would command a horrendous premium. As you can see, this one is not. So let me just gently shut that. Isn't that pretty? What a great colour as well. Let me give you some more details. There's a separate file of bills and invoices, including a running total compiling of money spent up to 2009 of £39,000. There is a ton of paperwork with this car. It's really straight and level. It's going to need a tiny bit to get it back on the road, but it will be a tiny bit. We had a lot of people looking at this car because it's such good value. Potentially there's money to be made there. There's a little bit of imperfection here. That seems to be touch-up. So that seems to be touch-up paint on the roof. So I think you're going to need to blow in on the roof. I don't know what's happened there. I don't know what colour that is, but it's not the colour of the car. I say that's little chips on the roof. If you don't want a fixed head coupe, if you'd rather have a drop head, how about this? It's rather lovely 4.2. I'll let Fraser spin around. 1969, so a little bit later, this one. Stunning looking car, recently been recommissioned. Again, it's not going to be a huge amount of money for a convertible. This is going to be more like 18 to 22, this one. You can see it's the later car with the later lamps. So that is so pretty with the early Series 1 lights. But look, isn't that gorgeous? 11,888 miles, Series 2 this one, with a desirable 4.2 straight six, MOTs that back up that mileage of 11,000. So is this an 11,000 mile car? Because the MOTs certainly seem to suggest it might be. And what looks like a very original interior also suggests that. It's lovely in the boot. I think it's an original
a largely original car, this one. Lots of paperwork suggests that it is, and a very interesting backstory as well. £1,300 has just been spent recently on recommissioning through storage. It runs, it starts, it drives. We would say just give yourself some money. Probably wants to go through a specialist, get a check over before you put it back on the road. Now, it was subject to a DVLA police inquiry in the 1990s. It appears that the same registration plate was attributed to 2 similar E-types when new, one being exported and one staying in the UK. Interesting. So there you go. So check that out. Interesting backstory. Very interesting car. And I think a potential bargain. I'm loving how much you can get nice E-types for. And that, I would say, is a very nice E-type you could put into service for not a lot of money. Moving on to this, if you're a fan of wheeler dealers, you'll know this car. So Mike and Elvis restored this car beautifully into a very high standard. So watch that episode. I'm thinking we might even put the link in the description. If not, have a little hunt around on Discovery Plus. You'll be able to find that. Very nice car, this one. So it's a 1969. It's an S2. It's done it's chassis number 54 out of 2061. And the odometer since the wheeler dealer rebuild is 1,847. It features in season 17, episode 18, if you want to check it out. It's been set up by an F1 mechanic. It's got the upgraded Spider replacement chassis. It's got removable sports steering wheel and new wheels and tyres. So what can I say? Wheeler dealer resto, done by the best in the business. Had all sorts of people looking at it. And again, from a very, very considerable collection, this one, 22 to 24 grand. And I know from chatting to Mike, they spent a lot more on the car than that building it. You need to be quite small to fit inside. I couldn't buy this car. Look at that. It's beautifully done. So the chassis was painted before being reunited with the body, so it's been fully split apart, this one. Fresh paint on it as well. Yes, we have. Look in the listing, we have put the link to the episode online. So if you are going to bid, watch the whole episode before you buy it, because that will tell you the story far better than I will of what the guys have done. It's always nice to own a TV car. Not all TV cars, mark my words, are done to a brilliant standard, but the wheeler dealer cars are, particularly towards the later series when they had bigger budgets. They really did do a very nice job of these, and also the guys they had doing them in their technical team, the same guys that we had on our show, and they are the best in the business. That's a very nice car. I wouldn't fit in it, but you might. Right, I'm back with our esteemed historian and my good friend George. George, thank you.
Pleasure.
1952 Austin A40 pickup. Not something that you see every day.
No, but this again has been beautifully restored to an unbelievably high standard. And what I call these small commercial vehicles are hugely popular across the range. I mean, obviously, there's people who've got ERF trucks and the like. But what I find very interesting about this particular period in terms of the history is that people like Austin and Morris and other manufacturers wanted to use what was basically the specification for a car, but make it into a pickup. And the reason why that came about was that partly because, of course, Beeching shut a lot of the railway lines in the 50s, and gone are the days when you could have them delivered to places. So companies decided, if we have a little pickup that's about half a ton, if you wanted to go and pick a motorcycle up or anything like that, this would do it. And this is what Austin chose to do, and others did it as well, Comma and the like. And this is in great order. And again, for the price that we're asking for, you could not restore it for it. The paintwork on it is exceptional, the detail on it is. But the interesting thing, of course, is it is a bench seat.
Yeah.
But if you look inside, of course, I think, God bless you, I think you might have a bit of trouble because
I might struggle in this. It's quite upright. It's very good for one's posture.
Well, if that's what your posture needs, then that's fine. Who am I going to criticise how you stand? But you can't adjust the seat. It's very upright. Column change, 4-speed. And again, it's just a lovely car. And again, you could go some shows with this. Some people might have a creation on the back of it. And you put bales of hay and all kinds of things. But as you can see, if you come to the back,
this would also, I would say, George, make a fantastic promotional vehicle for your business. You could get the doors sign written, couldn't you? It's very usable. Park it outside your shop. Use it for shows, as you say. What I like about this, I would say as well, because this is spec with a sun visor and no heater, we think, and because it was registered in the UK in the 80s, probably spent a life either in Australia or Africa,
Yeah.
which again probably means it's got a much nicer body
than a British registered equivalent.
Yeah, well, I'm led to believe that the rear part of it was made by Jensen's of West Bromwich, and it's.
Can you say it properly, please? West Bromwich.
You'll be on comedy stores if you're not careful.
I spend a lot of time in West Bromwich because, you know, I work with International Motors, and International Motors basically was what Jensen became. So the old Jensen offices is still there on Ryder Street in West Bromwich. I spend a big part of my life there, mate. I love people from West Bromwich.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do any imitation because I might.
It's a wicked accent.
But as you can see, coming back to more sensible conversation for this part of the video.
How rude.
Well, yes, it's all part of what we're about. This is a fabulous, but look at the condition of this bed. And, you know, as you say, you could use it for promotional things. I mean, funny enough, I'd love to see this with a couple of nice old motorcycles in.
Oh, we could sell you those as well.
Well, the reason why I tell this, I was very lucky. In 56 or 57, an uncle of mine had a Comma version of these, right, which is very similar. And I went down, first of all, to the Norton factory, and then we went to the Aero factory, and we came back to Keighley with 2 motorbikes in the back. Can you imagine that in the days?
Would you like to recreate that this Saturday?
Well, why don't we?
Well, yeah, we've got the motorbikes look as well. Yeah. We've got all of those.
Yeah, but it would be great. And this is what motorcycle dealers will have had.
Yeah.
So, for example, I know in my time when we had DSAs being sent by train, they used to come to Formby Station because that's what they did. They put them in a guards van. Trains used to have guards vans, not anymore.
Used to have guards.
Well, with that as well.
Yeah.
Enough of that. And we'd then go and pick it up and bring the Beezer van back to our business. So they were very, very practical. And of course, you didn't need any special license to drive them, which was the important thing as well. So relatively cheap, very practical. You can move house in it, whatever you wanted.
So there you go. All of those things still apply. £10,000 to £12,000. This could be yours. George, thank you for that insight. Do leave in the comments if you'd like to hear more of George's stories, because I know I would. We might have to go in the podcast room and do a special George tells us his life stories, because you have many with photographs, don't
you? Next time, I was going to bring it today, I'm going to bring a map, right, which is from the 1880s, right?
Your childhood map?
No. I said 1880s,
okay.
Not 1980s. Yeah. But it's an interesting map before cars were out. And I'll bring it next time and I'll show you. And it's a lovely piece of history. And it's 130 or 40 years age. But yeah, lovely.
So there you go. If you'd like to see more of George, leave it in the comments below. We might have to do a special George episode, all to himself. I think it's worth it. Right, on with the walk around. Thank you, George. Moving on to this. Now, you know I love an air-cooled Volkswagen. I've had a few beach buggies, and this is very, very nice. I like this. I can't work out whether it's either, so it's Manx-esque, a little bit of a GP as well, a little bit of a GP buggy. Lots of great buggy manufacturers and styles in this. It's very, very tasteful, very original, 60s looking, very deep metal flakes. That's very 70s as well. Love the sculpted back seats in this, but it's based on a 1964. So it's everything exempt. And it's been done really well and exceptionally tastefully. Look, everything from the buckets, the fact it's got the old large diameter steering wheel, which is very much how people were doing the buggies in the 70s as well. It's got the tombstones on. It's got a lovely twin cannon air-cooled motor out the back. And that's a 1300 twin port, so it's not fast. But everything about how this has been done is brilliant. It's got bikini screen on as well. It's great, isn't it? I think that's Lexan, actually, filming that. Yeah, it's a Lexan windscreen, no roof or hood, no roll bar. Just clean, simple, just kind of how they used to be done. I like that a lot. It would cost you a lot of money to build a buggy to this standard, probably easily 20 plus K. This one you could buy for 6 or 7, and just in time for the better weather. There's a real charm to buggies. They just work so well in so many places. They're, of course, very much welcomed in the Volkswagen scene. But they're one of those things that everybody thinks they're cute, so wherever you go with them, you'll be universally loved and accepted. Like I say, 6 to 7K, beautifully built. The metal flake gel coat on this is exceptional. I have to say, the quality of that moulding is superb. So that's not paint, that's actually metal flake. So they put a clear gel on, they put metal flake in it, and then that's actually moulded into the GRP. So that's very, very durable. And it's done, as I say, to a phenomenal standard. I would like that very much. So that's a bit of top-down fun for the summer. One of the greatest all-round classic cars ever made, the MGB Roadster. Amazing legroom, even if you're tall like me. 1972, this one. 76,000 miles. And the transmission, believe it or not, this is very interesting, automatic. That's what makes this one very special. I had to double take when I read that then. Automatic MGB. There will not be many for those
for sale. Why that's great is if you've got an automatic only license and you're thinking, oh, I'm never going to get a classic car, now you can. And if you just want to waft around of someone's nicking a car, you might have to just cut there. Oh no, there you go. We'll carry on. It seems to have a very nice new hood on it. We'll just pull that over, look, you can see that's beautiful. The hood is lovely as well. Sits on row styles, which is gorgeous. Really nice panel fit. So I'd say it's an older restoration. What this is not going to be, despite the fact it's a chrome bumper car, it's not going to be hugely expensive. For most people, they'd probably prefer a manual. If you have an automatic only license, or if you just fancy cruising, maybe you have a dodgy leg, any of those things. For some people, automatic is the preference or the necessity. If that's you, this is a very nice car. Paintwork wise, there's a little bit to do. It's not concourse paint, but it is very presentable, very tidy, tiny bit of micro blistering. So either live with that or just sort it as you go. But either way, have the summer out of it first. £5,000 to £6,000, that could be yours. Now, we've had a few hot rods in, but look at this. This is silly, absolutely silly. Ford V8 Pilot hot rod pickup. Now, if you know your hot rods, this was in the 70s. This was the thing. Look, it's got the big flathead V8 on it. It's just done to such a 70s style, and I adore it for that. 48,000 miles showing, although it's a hot rod, who knows where that speedo came from or when it was zeroed. So you've got to take it all with a pinch of salt. Great colour scheme with the scallops on, look. And just a great spec. So you've got the proper motor. I don't know what this chassis is off. Any rodders out there, please let me know. It's substantial, I know that much. You've got the great lake pipes down the side as well. Low ownership. And sadly, the gentleman that had this is not in a well way at the moment, so it's got to find a new home. But it needs nothing. Just jump in. It's got a little bit of patination on the seats, which I probably wouldn't bother with. It's just ready to go. And it sounds so good, flathead V8. Would cost you gazillions to build, particularly if you're trying to find so many nice original parts. Like, look at this, like this rolling here. So they literally get tube and they roll the sheet around the tube and then box it in. It's so 70s, but so well done. Paint's really nice quality. Proper thing. If you're really tall like me, you probably won't fit in. Or if you do fit in, you won't be able to put the clutch down. But basically, if you're under 6 foot, you will fit. It makes the most ridiculous noise. And for between £7,000 and £8,000, that could be yours to own and treasure. Proper traffic stopper for £8,000. I mean, the engine is worth an absolute fortune by itself. Please don't split it if you buy it though. Keep it, treasure it. It's a little bit of hot rod history. It just needs to be recommissioned and enjoyed again. These are good news. Also, look at the wheels on this. Possibly the best 4-stud Volkswagen wheel I've ever seen. That is awesome. That's a very rare wheel, that one. They will, of course, fit on any Beetle. So buy this car purely for the super rare Renaults. I can't even think of the last time I saw a set of those. 71, ex-California car, Porsche's mid-engine car, which for years, nobody loved them, which is a shame because they are absolutely amazing. 4-cylinder, effectively Volkswagen-derived engine, amazing balance, and suddenly now they've become very cool in Porsche circles. This, I think, is really good value. 8,500 to 9,500. It's had new sills. They've been welded in. Loads of history in the US. It's been converted to carbs, which is a very sensible idea. And it's also registered with Nova. I think it's registered in the UK. It is. It's registered on the 71J. I say because the sills have been done, you've got all of the big headaches taken away. It was originally willow green, this car. It is now being resprayed in this yellow, which I think I prefer. I think I'd rather have this. It's got some aftermarket leather steering wheel cover on. How would I grade it? I'd grade it, the paint is good but not perfect. It's a little bit flat. I think it will polish up. So it is a non-original colour, but I actually prefer the colour they've done. I'm giving the wheels 20 out of 10. For such a cool choice of wheel, whoever's put those on. And as I say, 8,500 to 9,500 for a really presentable, usable, and what looks very square and tidy little 914. If you've not driven one, they are mega. Roof comes off, Targa roof. And even if you're tall like me, you will fit in. Moving on, you can see this one's very popular. This gentleman's got a good eye, he knows. 2004 Bentley Continental GT in perhaps the best colour, I think. Bentley's to me look so good in dark metallic greys. It just emphasises the lines and the solidity. This is very nice, very low, very lovely mileage on this one. It's done 30,000 miles. Fresh MOT with no advisories on the car. Freshly serviced for you. These can be very good news, you know, very good fun. This is probably one of the nicest I've seen. Come and look in here. Look. Just imagine this every time you're going out for a run, high days and holidays, which this car would be perfect for. Imagine if that was where you did it. Can't really convey to you if you've never owned one or driven one, how special you feel when you get into a Bentley of any period. There's something about them, something that really makes you feel special. And of course, because it's this pillarless, beautiful roofline. So again, I just shut the door so Fraser can see. On these Continentals, when you put the rear windows down, you get this gorgeous pillarless glass house where everything drops down, which of course elongates the roof of the car. It makes it look fabulous. I mean, they still look fresh today. This is a 21-year-old car that looks about 5 years old, and particularly the condition of this one. This is truly exceptional. Everything about this, the paintwork, the wheel condition, the mileage, the MOT, the lack of advisories, the service history. It's really, really nice. When you buy these, they're quite inexpensive, relatively speaking. So the difference between a poor one could be 9 grand and a really nice one could be 15, 16. Stretch and get the 15, 16 grand one. It's probably going to be much, much cheaper in the long run, because you know, a pair of turbos on one of these can be 10 grand. So get a good one. That's a very good one. Come and satisfy yourself. Come and inspect. Please bring your specialist. That's the whole point of viewing days. If Fraser spins round, you'll see. Today's Wednesday. We've got Thursday, Friday, a little bit of Saturday morning. If you really do want to come and have a look at these cars, we make it very easy for you. You're more than welcome to come down. Bring anyone you like, go through the books, have a look, get underneath, get your torch out. We take photos underneath every car that we can. They're all online. That's a beautiful car. Last of the cheap Continentals with no mileage. Another inexpensive way to drive around in a Bentley and feel very special is this. Now, I have one of these, an Arnage T. To me, being a Bentley snob, these are the last proper Bentley, the last proper crew Bentley with a 675 pushrod motor in, really old tech. These were, I think at the time, there's a brilliant clip of Carlsson doing a test drive of one of these in period, doing all sorts of donuts at an airfield somewhere. These are astonishingly fast, like Ferrari fast cars. You've got a full 5-seater, and you've got this one being a Mulliner. You've got the diamond stitch leather, the turned aluminium dash. They are truly special. But despite that, and despite the fact this one's done 72,000 miles, you will only pay somewhere between about 13 and 15,000 pounds. Can you think of another car with that sort of road presence that you can buy for that sort of money? Again, you do need to find a good specialist. You do need to find someone that knows what they're doing, and you do need to keep on top of the maintenance of these cars. Great history with this, good MOT on it as well. Registered to Bentley, Cheltenham when new, and 8 stamps in the book. So that's a great car. But do you prefer the original headlights, or do you prefer the facelift, which looks a little bit more modern, on this one? So this is a later car. This is a 2007. Again, it's a Mulliner, so you get the diamond stitch leather. This has got the chrome grille rather than the body colour grille. Which do you prefer? This one's done 95,000. Now, being a later facelift car with the larger wheels, looks a bit more modern, looks a bit more like the design language of the Mulsanne. You will pay a bit more for this. Also, particularly lovely colour on this one as well. Good history. It's got the flying bee on the radiator, of course, which is rather nice as well. And where has it been? In the Isle of Man. That's where it's been. So all of that mileage has been done on the Isle of Man. One imagines a great speed, because they have no speed limit outside the villages there. It does not have a UK MOT. But it does have an Isle of Man MOT, which apparently is quite a lot stricter than a UK one. So it will need a UK MOT, but be aware and be assured that it's been tested by a UK authority very, very recently. Just not us here in the UK. Again, look inside. Look at that. Utter opulence, utter magnificence, and could be yours for somewhere between 22 and 24 grand. Because really they haven't changed their design language very much on the Bentley saloons. I mean, the Arnage has quite a high glass house, but it's very Rolls-Royce-esque. Obviously, when you get to the Mulsanne, they drop the roofline down an awful lot. I adore these. I really do. I say I've got one of those in silver. High mileage one. Great car. And not as crazy to run as you'd think. Now, talking of cars that will definitely be easy to run and probably the most reliable car in the world, or truck in the world, the Toyota Hilux. We've all seen that Top Gear skit where Jeremy Clarkson was driving one of these and was unable to destroy it. There's a good reason that that was so funny, because these are almost undestroyable. This one's a 96, Largely original, although I'd say it's had some paint. They've definitely painted the bumpers as well. 72,000 miles, 13 stamps in the book, 5 former keepers. I don't think this is your typical Hilux that's had a normal commercial vehicle life. You can always tell in the cabs of commercials what they've been up to. If you look at the seat on this one, because normally people wear boots and they scuff these door bins to bits, they're ruined. Normally all the bolsters and edges fall apart. For a commercial vehicle, that is exceptional. What I would point out, just so you know, you can probably see on the screen there, the screen is just starting to delaminate a little bit at the bottom. So I would get some good windscreen cover on your classic car insurance, and then unfortunately, if it's stone chips at a later date, that will cover that for you. That won't be an expensive thing if you do it on your windscreen cover. What's that worth? That's worth somewhere between £11,000 and £13,000. And as Fraser's showing you now, it's exceptionally clean. I don't think you'll find another one outside of Toyota's heritage fleet as clean as that. Really very nice. What could you use this for? Could be a promotional vehicle. I think it'd be very good at that. Don't forget it has got a huge bed. It's a very usable truck. And no benefit in kind tax to pay because it's a single cab pickup. Now that's the Hilux. This is the FJ, probably the most iconic of all Toyotas. This one's very special. This one here, 1975. Great vehicle with a wonderful twist because you've got all of that lovely FJ styling. They've raptured the bed, so that's nice and hard wearing. The bodywork is very, very good on this, I have to say. It's a South African import that came over in 2023, which explains the complete lack of rust. But where once I would imagine was a Toyota diesel engine, we now have a Chevy 5.7 V8. So that's going to be a little bit quicker, a little bit noisier than your standard FJ. But they're a good sized cabin on these. I have driven a standard one of these. I've never driven a V8 converted one, but I'd very much like to have a go on this one. It's got a funky little custom dash there, look. So you see the Toyota, you see the fact it's got a V8. It's got NK Sport tyres, refurbished load bed. It's got the cover done on the back as well. And it's correctly registered with the 5.7. Now, it had a detailing amount of work in 2022, just tidying in bits and pieces, £3,500 in South Africa. But don't forget, £3,500 prepping a car in South Africa goes a lot further than it does here. But just come and have a look at that. That's ridiculous. You see the screen folds down on the front of these. Very, very silly truck that. You can take the doors off them as well. Utterly cool. What would you pay? 16 to 18. You could not put the engine in probably for that to do it properly. That's a lot of truck for the money, isn't it? And it makes a very silly noise. Now this is interesting. These gentlemen are obviously on the right wavelength. Come and have a look at this. 1975 Rover 3500. Come with me, Fraser, it's round here. Good one, this chaps. So it's been in the barn for a long, long time. And it's got that amazing smell that you get from vehicles that have been in a barn. 1975 Rover, it's been in the barn for at least 20 years. This is not eBay barn find dust, this is the real thing, this one. Now it's interesting because it's got the wheel and a few other bits from the S. I'm not saying it is an S, but what I'm saying is it's got a lot of S parts on it, which is interesting. But it's definitely a V8, it's definitely 3.5 litre. Manual, 47,000 miles, and the interior is in remarkable condition if you look. This would be the most fun to clean this up and get it back on the road. You can see, look at the seats, Fraser, look at that. Or you could just get it recommissioned and leave it this dusty. It would be amazing, wouldn't it? So very low miles, very tidy interior and completely untouched. So as a reference car to restore, but just the way that everything opens and shuts, you can just see in the back there, someone's had the back seat up to have a look at the chassis. Look at the state of the chassis leg, look. Can you see? Someone's been checking in there, and it is beautiful. The roof's nice. The amazing thing about these is they're just a bolt-on car. It's basically a skeleton to which every panel is unstressed and bolts to it. So they're just a huge Meccano kit. There's no reserve on this car. I think if you are trying to restore one, this could be the very, very easy way to do it because there's not a huge amount of rust or problems anyway. You're going to have to do a full recommissioning. You can see there's a bit of reactance here, look, on the bonnet. There's a tiny bit on the boost as well. But bank on a few good days in the workshop going through and recommissioning, I think you'll have a very lovely car. But the nice thing is, despite the fact it's largely original and everything is there, there is no reserve on that car. You get to set the price. Moving on, 1950. Land Rover 80 Series 1. We do love a Series 1. We seem to have had one in every single auction for the last few auctions. And this is a very, very early vehicle. Early lights behind the grille with history that goes back to the 1960s. Very cool number plate as well. And 40,000 miles shown. Now, whether that's round the clock or whether it's since a rebuild in history, but just look how, I'll say tidy it is. Obviously, it's got this beautiful patina, but it's very straight and level. Very straight and level. Loads of history. It's got the circuit radiator and the rear D-lamps. It's got the British Motor Heritage Certificate as well. It does need some recommissioning, my team tells me. So bank on a little bit of work to do. In terms of body restoration or chassis, I don't think you've got a lot to do there at all. It just is what it is. Highly original. We've got the V5, we've got paperwork, buffer logbook, previous tax discs, previous MOTs, and invoices back to the 60s. So again, what a great thing. Either as a project car, I would not touch this at all. I would just get it back on the road. Attend to this little bit of corrosion on the back there. Look, that needs sorting out. So you've got some money to spend and some time to take, but it's had what looks like a new tilt. That's a very expensive canvas tilt on the back of that. So if someone's been spending some money recently, better than you think. Now Fraser comes on the front. We've got this 1940s MGTC. Now this is a proper project, this. You're going to need to get out your big socket set. Completely no reserve, this one. Now as I understand it, so this is lot 301. Here's your chassis and body. There's a TC, very, very pretty car when it's finished. And the chassis, I have to say, looks like at some point somebody's gone and restored that chassis. So a long, long time ago, it looks very much like someone's had the chassis off, cleaned it, painted it. You might want to do that again while it's all apart. And the rest of it, if you enjoy Lego or Meccano or Tamiya, ta-da! There's 3 of these stillages. There's all of your bits. So bring a very big truck when you come, because you're going to need to take all of that home with you. You could decant it into a van. So what have we got? We've got the bonnet, the bulkhead, the tyres, the seats, the dash, the side screens. There's a full list of everything we've got, which takes nearly a page on the website. So it is all there, and it is a no reserve lot. So you get to choose how much it is. If you're thinking of doing one, the body looks very, very nice. I have to say, it looks very much like a long time ago somebody started a resto, did a lot of the hard work, then ran out of patience or money. We've all been there. Here's your chance to pick it up and finish it off. Or whisper it. You could hot rod it. You could hot rod it. How could that do, like a roadster? No, I don't think anyone's ever done that on the TC. Imagine doing that full roadster. Panel all this in. Empty. It would just look so cool. No reserve, you can make that work. Now this is rather nice, mini shell. Mark II shell, no reserve, original Mark II mini shell, between 67 and 69 this. Finishing tartan red with a black roof. It does need some new panels and fabrication, but if you're trying to do a restoration on an early mini, or you want to backdate a later car, I will of course leave that to your conscience to make sure you re-register it correctly and do everything properly. This could be a good way to do it. It's got mounts for opening rear windows and a hole for remote gear change, suggesting it's either an old Cooper shell or a Mini 1000, I would say. If you look here, there's a bit of work to do. There's a lot of Flintstones going on the floor here. But this again is a no reserve item. They seem to be multiplying. It's lot 269. Also, there's another one coming later. So look at that, 1968 Cooper Mark II, a rewarding restoration. So that is saying it's done 3,300 miles. That's the one behind there. It does need a full restoration. It's a UK right-hand drive car with its heritage certificate supplied by Central Garage in Leeds in 1968. A ton of parts that come with that car as well. Steering wheel and column, bonnet, radiator, Cooper S wheels, door cards. So you've probably got enough bits to make a quite decent start of a mini project. And being a Cooper, there's loads of great places like MotorClan you can get all the bits and pieces from. So there's 2 restoration projects with plenty of work to do. If you're feeling like you don't want to go into all of that effort, you'd rather buy something that's pretty much there, how about this? 1965 Morris Mini Cooper S, no reserve. So this is a rare Mini Cooper with rally history. Interesting car, this one. Looks like it's a little bit of a bitzer, this. So lots of documentation and invoices, including the original buff logbook and MOT history. It's got rally history with RAC documentation. It's got the correct Coupe S interior and 120-mile speedo, but it has been reshelled at some point and fitted with a Morris 1300 GT engine. So she is a lovely, lovely mongrel, this. So if you're after a pure Coupe S, probably not the car for you. If you want a car that has all of the look and it's got that RAC history and could be a bargain and you could add value to, this is the one. That's awesome. It looks great, doesn't it? So potential bargain of the sale, that one. Moving on. Oh, it's got some, let me tell you a bit more about this. So it's got the A series from a Morris 1300 GT, twin SUs, Kent 266 camshaft, a 9:1 compression ratio. That's 70 horsepower, that thing. That's an absolute flying machine. In competition straight cut gears. I think that's probably one of the coolest things in here, I have to say. And you haven't got to worry about it being immensely valuable so that you can't use it and mess about with it. Great, great project. Talking of great projects for people with endless patience, how about this? 1975 Rover P6 3500. No reserve on this. This will need some work. This belongs to a good friend of mine, Tony Pitts. He bought it, as we've often done, and you'll sympathise with this, in a moment of drunken madness on eBay, because it's actually bodily a very nice car, I have to say. It's lovely on the body. It will need some mechanical sorting, it really will. It's very much a project. It all seems to be there, but it is a no reserve car. So have some fun with it. It is a 3.5 litre as well. But as I say, don't be fooled by the fact it looks really good on the body. You are going to have to spend plenty of money sorting this out. The interior is quite decent. The body's very, very good. Buy, bid it right. It's no reserve car, but understand there's money to spend and time to spend on that. But you'll have some fun doing it. You'll have a lovely car. On to the next lots. Not an XR3i, but a 1.6i Ford Escort Cabriolet with XR3i wheels on in a very rare colour. Interesting, that reg number. That is probably either a Ford management car or potentially a press car. Might be worth doing some Googling, seeing if there's any road reports at the time of this car being used. Excuse me. It's done 30,000 miles, which we think could be correct. It's had a little kiss on the front, look. Front bumper's gone a bit wonky donkey. You'll have to sort that out. Not a massive amount of paperwork with this car, to be fair. We've got the V5C, we've got some bills. We've got an interesting report from the previous owners. We've got a bill on file from 2014 when a lot of work was done, over £2,300 in 2014. But it's obviously sat and it will need a recommission. Then we've got the mileage showing at 30,000. There's nothing to show on any of the paperwork that goes through with the car that that isn't correct. If you look at the seats and the interior, I think there's every chance that's an actual genuine 30,000 mile car. You're going to need to sort the paint out a little bit. Bumper needs sorting. Interior, I don't think you need to spend much on at all. That looks very, very nice. It's rare. The 1.6 cabs are rare. And this is no reserves. That could be your cheap summer fun. That could be you smoking around for not a lot of money in not a lot of time. Not a Jag Mark II, but a Daimler V8. You can see here, look, many of the cars we've got coming up have got hard tops with them. Daimler V8s I love because you get all the style of a Mark II Jag, you get the fluted grille, you get the little tiny jewel-like V8 that makes the most beautiful smooth noise. This one's done 74,000 miles. It's a 67. It's manual. Really great looking car, this Daimler Saloon. And it appears to be largely original. I'd say a lot of that paint is probably original. It's got wires on it. What's the interior like? It's quite nice. A little bit patinated on the leather. Needs the tunnel sorting out. But the wood looks in very good order, actually. This is not going to be an expensive car, despite the fact it's a Daimler, which is rarer, despite the fact it's a V8, because it's a bit careworn. And if you look at the paint, it's had paint on the roof. You can see you've got micro blistering, it's a little bit flat. If you're looking for a show quality car, it's probably not this one, but if you're looking for one that you can run, drive, use, have some fun with, and improve as you go, that's probably the one. So it comes from a deceased estate, 3 former keepers, bundles of invoices, maintenance manuals, parts catalogues. You're going to need to do the paint at some point. And it's just nice, it's honest. What I really like is cars like that. Not perfect, but you can see all of the problems you've got to work with. And actually, in some ways, I'd rather see that than a tarted up, swiftly painted car where I'm just guessing. That's all on show. You can come and see. And all of this stuff's not structural. All of this paint discoloration You can drive it like that for years. And I very much suggest that you do. Oh, isn't this beautiful? Isn't this beautiful? I'm in love with this. 1960 Jaguar Mark 9. You just don't see them come up for sale very often. This is full lions in full effect, this. Just imposing, good-looking car. You'd have been, I would have thought, a very senior director. Not just the bank manager, but the regional bank manager, I'd imagine, if you're driving one of these. This was top of the tree. Beautiful, beautiful car. Just very imposing-looking machine. Automatic, of course, 95,000. Appears, again, to be largely original. It's got the heritage certificate and the manual. Some invoices and bills, but not a full history. It's had the recent work since 2018. Cooper craft front and rear calipers, bushes have been replaced, all the engine chrome nuts have been replaced, steering pump's been remade, and the leather seats repaired. So it's tidy, it's not immaculate, but it is very, very clean. For me, for this kind of machine, it's the perfect condition. It's just that nice enough to take to events and get the nod, but just not so clean and so perfect that you never use it. It's got little marks you can see, little marks on the chrome, a few little marks on the roof, because a lot of it's original paint, I would say. Wood's lovely, leather's lovely. Ultimate waft, I think you would stop traffic in that. But just come and look from the front here, Fraser, look. Just come and shoot it from there. I think Mark 9s have as much presence as a contemporary Bentley or Rolls Royce, if not more so. But that's 10 to 12 grand you'd buy that for. They're beautifully wide and low. If you look at the proportion of the width, the bonnet, the grille, to almost like the roof chopped glass. Incredible looking car, really nice looking car. 10 to 12 grand, that could be yours. I could be saying those things about your car. SLs, we love them, you know that. They're very handsome, they're great to drive, they're not huge amounts of money. This is a 2011 car in possibly the best colour combo because you've got black with tan. Who doesn't love black with tan on a roadster? 8 to 9 grand you could buy this one. So 90,000 miles, it is of course an automatic. And being the 350, it's quick, but not so quick. And it's not got the crazy bills and crazy fuel consumption that comes with the 500. Do love that colour combination. Now, the last MOT was advisory free and runs till October 2025, and it was serviced at Mercedes-Benz 6 times between 2012 and 2019, and has been serviced since. We've got a lot of paperwork showing this car's had love. So despite the fact it's quite price rangey, 8 to 9, you could buy that car, great history, cruise around in the summer, and they are a phenomenal looking thing. Or, if you prefer silver, you can have this one. This one, if you look as well, very nice colour combination. Hello folks, you all right? 89,000 miles, automatic, only for former keepers on this one as well. Optioned with a very nice panoramic roof, which does half make a difference, not only to the look of the car, because you get the beautiful contrast between the coachwork and the roof, but when you're inside, they feel so much lighter. 9 stamps in the service book on this one, complete book pack as well. And the mileage we think is absolutely correct because the interior is wearing exactly like that. 3.7 engine on these, they're just lovely. I mean, the 500 is the one if you want outright power and speed, but actually as a compromise between running costs, drivability, noise, this is a very lovely place to be. What would that cost you? Because of the slightly higher mileage, £5,000 to £6,000. What a lot of car for the money. Aren't they stunning? What a great way to travel. Right, moving on. We've done very well with these recently. Little Datsuns. Before Nissan, there was Datsun. And this is the Japanese coming into the country with their reliable, well-equipped cars, upsetting the British marketplace with cars that people actually could get to work in, with extras as standard that people were normally used to paying for. And of course, the rest is history. We know what happened to the Japanese car manufacturers, and then the Koreans, and now the Chinese. It's happening all over again. It's a proven model, but these are brilliant little cars, actually. The 120A F11 Coupe, 26,500 miles, manual, and we think that mileage is genuine, we really do. 2 former keepers, and there's a lot of things to suggest, not least of all the condition of inside, that that's genuine mileage. It's got the thin rim Datsun wheel, it's got the push button radio, it's got all of the little bits that really keep the purists happy. It's a very complete, very together little car. Even the trims, which so often get lost, are complete. Now we seem to, every sale that we have one of these, they seem to do very well. This one's estimated at 8 to 9. Not a car you're going to see a huge amount of for sale at any one time. And particularly in this condition, it needs nothing really.
Just needs a clean and a polish, and tuck it in your garage. Even these little rear side window vents are complete. They often get smashed off. There's a crack in the other one, but the fact that they're there at all is quite exceptional. What a lovely thing. Right, bargain sports car for summertime. If the SL's not your bag, if you want something that's a little bit more track focused, this is the one. Boxster 3.2S manual. Can't really have more fun at this level of quality with that degree of handling for that kind of expenditure. You just can't top these. So it's 2000, so it's a true classic, 25-year-old car now, 32,000 miles from new. In the silver with the fried egg headlights, which I used to hate, but now weirdly I love. The orange indicators. It just looks so right. It's completely unmessed with, unmolested car. So 32,000 miles from new, one former keeper, the gearbox that everybody wants to see. It's been with the current owner since 2010. That cherished plate stays with it. 10 stamps in the book and serviced by a VW mechanic since 2010. Mobile one used throughout and a new filter every 3 years. Fully operational roof, supplied with MOT certificate, matching set of Toyo tyres and a full book pack. I am finding this very hard to fault. I think it's had some paint at some point in the past. It's been done very well. The seat bolsters are good. Again, commensurate with the mileage. 7.5 to 8.5 grand for a Porsche Boxster with 32,000 miles on with the right gearbox in. I think you'll struggle to find anything better for the money than that. That's very cool. We seem to send a lot of Porsches to Australia because our British prices are very competitive, almost half of what they are. And when the cars are 25 years old, they go to Australia with very little tax on them. That, if you're watching from Australia, let's stick that one in a container for you and you can be cruising around in that with 32,000 miles. It's lovely, really lovely, that one. Or, how about this? If you want a 4-door, 5-seat saloon, take the family around, well, actually 4-seat saloon, to be fair, these were. But you really want a coupe. You want some practicality because you've got 2 kids, but you want the coupe roofline. This is what Mercedes came up with. It's unique. The CLS. This is a 350 again. This is unusual because a lot of these were diesel. This is a petrol. Quite rare in that spec. So a lot of people buying them as relatively sensible cars. So the petrol makes the nicest noise. Uses a bit more fuel, but who cares really? Lots of paperwork. Great silver black Mercedes colour combination on this one as well. Lots of older MOTs, which sits nicely with the current MOT to October 25, original handbooks and instruction manuals, but the best bit, one previous owner. And that's how we know it is what it is. Interior is great on these. So if you've got 3 kids, don't buy this, because they do have that central bit in the middle. Someone's going to be very upset. If you've got 2 kids, it's perfect. But I can remember the first time I saw one of these on the road. They are a very arresting looking motor car, these. But despite that, despite everything that we know about this car, it's no reserve car. So you get to tell me how much you think that's worth. And it won't be massive amounts. They're an awful lot of car for the money, and they drive so well, particularly that one being the petrol. I might even have a cheeky bit. It's got Daily Driver written all over it, that one, isn't it? If you want to go back to the 60s, if you want to go to a drive-through, listen to a bit of rock and roll, how about this? 1962 Ford Zodiac Mark II low line, so you get the much nicer roof line on these. Just a baby yank, isn't it? This is all the best bits of American car design, photocopied down to 7/8 size. And what a pretty thing that is. So 7,300 miles showing, and I imagine that's around the clock or since a restoration. Column change with a 3-speed, bench seat on the front, and £4,000 spent on this car in the last 2 years. So she's ready to go. Just have a look in there, Faye. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? This is when Ford were basically just blatantly copying everything they're doing across the water in slightly smaller, easier to park form with the steering wheel on the right-hand side. It's got new front seat belts, which not every car of this era has, believe it or not. They are rather nice, particularly if you're bringing the family into classic cars for the first time. What else has it had? A rebuilt water pump and gasket, new radiator top and bottom hoses. It's had an oil change, oil pump cleaned. It's had new door cards, new screen rubbers. It's had a little bit of paintwork. The paintwork's not perfect. You don't really want it to be. You can see, just a little bit patinated and careworn. But what you see, that very pretty stance and the overall condition is very much representative of what you're getting. Oh my word, it goes on and on and on. Checked and adjusted tappets, top-up oil, replaced heater matrix, connected radio, fitted chrome wing scripts. Yeah, I could go on all day, couldn't I?
The amount of money and care that's been lavished on that, I would say, if you are interested in one, it's not going to be an expensive car. So no reserve car, that one. That's had a lot of love on that car, and a lot of money spent. Come and have a look. Come and pull the history and do read the listing because, as I say, somebody has given that exactly what you'd hope. Now this is lovely. Hello, sir. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm just filming at the moment. Be right with you. So 1991 Mercedes-Benz 190. This, to me, answers the question, if you could only drive one classic car and you had to use it for everything, including going to work, taking the kids to school, what would you drive? It would probably be this. Long after we have all gone, these 190s will be left. They're so stylish, beautifully made in the era where Mercedes were doing things really to a stunning quality. This one's done 80,000 kilometers, 49,000 miles, and it's a Jap import. My favorite thing in the world. Come and look at this, Fraser. Look at the condition of this, it's insane. So the seat materials that Mercedes were using are so hard wearing, they do lie about their miles, but I think this one is one of the nicest I've seen. It's not gonna be a lot of money this, you know, 5 to 7 grand. You could buy this. What else can I tell you about it? Originally registered in Japan in 1991, which explains its lovely condition. A couple of older MOTs, even some spare keys, and it rides and drives beautifully. Now it is 34 years old, but the more you look at this, the better it gets. And I do think at some point people are going to wake up the 190 is just the perfect size, because the S-Class is obviously engineeringly the better car. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, it's just big enough to use every day, decent sized boot, just kind of clever enough to be usable, but not so complicated the build's going to be enormous. The 190s, there are nothing in the Mercedes range that touches them. Let's have a look in the boot. Oh, look how clean it is. I would like to own this car very much. 5 to 7 grand and it's done 49,000 miles. Very much a car you could drive every single day. Beat the system. Now this is a bit of fun. Mid-engine cars either have the Boxster or 1979 Fiat X19. Little pint-sized superstar this. Loving the faux race car graphics. It's got a number of choice upgrades on this, so lots of bills and invoices. MOT that backs up the mileage, which is 43,000 miles, and it's tax and MOT exempt now. Don't they look good? It's Bertone, of course, at the height of his powers. Really clean looking car. And becoming quite rare and desirable because most of them rotted away or people fired them into a ditch. It's been debumpered, which I actually quite like, makes it look a bit more sporty. The alloys have been painted black, which is maybe your thing, maybe not your thing. It's got some aftermarket mirrors on. So someone's obviously gone for like a fast road look, and they've backed that up with some work. So we've got gas flowed head, standard ECU, a performance fuel pump, and a larger intercooler. Interesting. Some Apex coil springs. So it's a little fast road upgrade, this one. Someone's been having a nice mess. A nice mess, and I like what they've done. What would that cost you? Somewhere between £5,000 and £6,000. I think you'd have a huge amount of fun. It's almost sort of set up for club motorsport or sprinting or even track days. It looks like someone's enjoyed that, and maybe you'd be the next person to pick up that baton and go with them. You never go wrong with a chrome bumper MGB GT. This is a 74, so last of the chrome bumpers before they went to the Impact. So you've got really the ultimate development of that model. This one's an 86,000, really nice with a tartan red as well, refurbished row styles and the addition of a Webasto roof. It's an earlier restoration, so it's sat in this resto for a long time and the paint is very, very nice. Correctly registered as historic, so it's everything exempt, that one. Chrome motor's got a few little marks on it, but what do you want really? Because it's not going to be expensive, 5 to 6K. You could, if you wanted to, just go around. And as I say, there's people like Motorclan that do all the bits for this car. So if you look here, things like this vent that sits on top of the bonnet, see how it's just starting to bubble up. That is not an expensive part to replace. You can get that brand new. And if you look on the paint here as well, look, just a few little bubbles just starting to go around the windscreen. So she's super tidy and presentable, but there's room for you to have a tinker on weekends. And that is what an MG is all about. Best thing about owning an MG, other than the fact that they drive beautifully, and I think they look very, very nice, is just the spares and the owners' clubs. There's 2 clubs to choose from. They're both great guys.
a great specialist that can give you everything you want. If you've got a problem with this car on Monday afternoon, by Tuesday night you'll have the part. It's that simple. There are new cars harder to look after than this, just because the spare situation is so prevalent. Lots to love about that, and not an expensive car. Really nice, level, older resto with any problems and any small cauliflowers. Very honestly peeking through. I like that a lot. Super honest, straight car, that one. 72 Mercedes SL. All the SLs, I think we've got one of every single model and every single model year. This, to many people, we haven't got a Pagoda, there you go. I tell a lie, we haven't got a 300 SL. But all of the affordable, attainable SLs that we've got. This is a 72, it's very pretty, and as the sign says, factory hardtop, which you may have spotted in the corner as we were walking around before. 121,000 miles, which as we know is laughing mileage for a Mercedes. Automatic. It spent much of its time in New Zealand. Years. Imported to the UK in 2019. Complete with both hard and soft top options and a very smartly presented interior. Is it immaculate and perfect? No, it isn't. There's a few tiny bits of crazing on the paint here. Is it going to be an enormous amount of fun for quite sensible amounts of money, bearing in mind these can be 30k? Yes. Yes, it is. 6.5 to 7.5 grand would buy you this. You know, I'm definitely going through that phase at the moment. I've restored a lot of cars over the years, hundreds of cars, and I've made the mistake of either buying cars that are immaculate and I've never used them, or restored them to a ridiculous standard and I've never used them. What I'm finding at the moment is when I buy cars like this that have little tiny bits and imperfections on, I use them all the time. So you buy them for a lot less money, you use them, if you get a little parking dent or a mark or the kid drops their bike on it, it's just not the end of the world. There's a lot to be said for cars that look presentable from 10 yards that aren't perfect. This is very much that car. And for that reason, I think you'll have an awful lot more fun than a Minter. I really do. Talking of Minters, this car looks very, very nice. Very, very late MGF-TF with the lovely upgraded headlights. 76,000 miles on a manual, and it's a twin spark 115. Two former keepers driven to the sale room. Very nice looking car, this one. One of the last examples built, and it's got the book pack and wallet and 6 stamps in the service book. It's clean, really clean, great colour as well. Again, this is one of those cars that suffered a little bit reputationally. MGF, a bit like the Boxster, you know, people who say hairdresser's car, clearly people that haven't driven one, because the drive of these cars and how much fun they are versus what they cost is exceptional. Now the MGF, there were certain elements to the styling of that I think really dated it, but the TF, which I do believe was again under Peter Stevens and his team, where they elongated the headlights, because the original ones were much rounder, made the grille much more modern, put a much nicer tail on. I think the car looks a lot more modern, but dynamically, there's a race series for these and they were really, really good to drive. They're a fantastic car to have fun in. That will be a very inexpensive car. That's a no reserve car. Come and have a bid on that. I think you'll have a lot of fun in the summer. And there's nothing to do. Just a little bit of seat bolster wear. That's all I can find on it. And that is nice. Super condition. Very much commensurate with the age of mileage. And you could probably spend £200-300 and make it almost mint. The lease alternative, I keep talking about it. It is the future. I am loving it. I'm saving a fortune not running a lease car. I'm running stuff like this. 2002 BMW 316. If you just need to bomb up and down a motorway, and you have been doing that in a lease car, get this instead. It's not fast at all, not even slightly fast at all. It's presentable, it's beautiful, it's timeless design, and this is a stunning low mileage, one owner example. 20,000 miles this has done. This is going to be the equivalent of stepping into a BMW showroom 23 years ago. And if you sit in there, it's not going to be much dissimilar from how it would have been when it was new. 20,000 miles, 8 service stamps in the book, all by the supplying dealer. And it's just rare and standard and beautiful thing. It's very, very fresh. So let's have a look. It's the 316 SE, one owner, supplied by Williams BMW in Liverpool in 2002. And they've done all the service work on it. That's a bit of a thing, isn't it? Because a 316 is, you know, it's not the most desirable engine spec, but suddenly when you get one in this mileage, in that condition, with that history, it becomes incredibly special. So not fast, but beautiful, and with the leather. What a lovely car. For that, we would probably see that going through at £5,500 to £6,500 to buy effectively a brand new BMW. It's a lot of car for the cash, isn't it? And again, like we keep saying, these late 90s, early 90s cars, you can daily drive them. So even if you bought that at £6,500 and it depreciated £2,000 over the next few years while you piled 50,000 miles on, it's the cheapest car you'll ever buy. And you get to drive around in a cool old Beamer. Right. This one's back. What a thing this is. This is the FQ, the flipping quick 440, the FQ 440 MR, number 29 of 40. Exceptionally fast, 440 horsepower, one owner from new, low mileage. Only 40 cars were made and they all had 440 horsepower and 412 pound-feet of torque. Full dealer history on this. We are talking a genuine part of Mitsubishi competition history. They are rare, 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 and this one is like new. It's got some ridiculous upgrades on it. The Jan Speed exhaust, the Alcon brakes, lowered suspension, BBS alloys with Recaro seats. They were the pinnacle, basically the best Evo you could buy. It presents gorgeously. There's nothing to do with it really. Have a look at the spec, it's enormous. You are going to have to spend a lot of money, somewhere between 40 and 45 to buy it. But then if you put that into the catalogue of other homologation cars, look at what Delta Integrales are fetching. Look at what other homologation cars that are the pinnacle of their type are making. Actually, 40 something grand for this suddenly seems quite cheap, doesn't it? And you won't go faster, that's for sure. Supercar humbling performance in a 5-seat car with a decent boot. That was the whole point of the FQ. You do need to put a lot of fuel in them and you do need to service them a lot. But apart from that, phenomenal thing. And this one needs nothing. Just a new owner. Right. RS turbos on RS 7-spoke wheels could possibly be one of my favourite things in the world. Doesn't that look good? So a lightly messed, very tastefully messed 1987 Ford Escort RS turbo that's been tuned to 205 horsepower and 194 feet of torque. It's had a recent respray. It's got an uncut parcel shelf. It's got the original dealer plates and stickers. It does need a new headlining, it says here as well. It's got a new Garrett T3 turbo. Got clutch kit. These softline 7-spokes, like I say, that they are one of my favourite Ford wheels. Doesn't it look right? So you can tell it's been modified. You can tell it's been messed with. It's got the darker lights, but everything's been done really tastefully. Even the bean can exhaust, I think, works on this. And this is 205 horsepower, this car. They were a great car in period, but they weren't that quick. Not really. But this one really is. And cars like this, so I'm a modifier by trade, really. So that's what I used to do in the noughties. I used to tune Subarus and Mitsubishi Evos. And obviously people come in and it costs thousands and thousands to get a car to be this much better as this car is. But then bizarrely, second hand, because it's modified and the purists want the standard cars, you will buy it cheaper as the second owner or third owner. You will buy it cheaper. So despite all this amazing stuff, which I adore, and I would have put on, this car's only going to be £8,000 to £10,000. Were it standard, it would be a lot more money. Little bit to do. You can just see a little bit of delamination on the seat cushion there, just coming apart. So a little bit of upholstery to do. I think spend 500-600 quid on that car and it would be perfect. And I love the modifications and the paintwork is very good. It's got a heavy flake in it, probably a heavier flake than it was when it was standard, which I love. It's got a bit more like of a silver kick to it. Really nice car that is. I would own that. So do have a look at all the pictures, have a look underneath, see what you think of it, but that's cool, really cool. And they've got 4 pages of description that I haven't really got the time to go through, but I think you'll enjoy reading that. Now, another lightly modified car, 74 MG BGT, a chrome bumper GT. We love them. The softline wheels, probably you might argue, are not quite correct for period, but they don't look terrible. I think if you put a standard road style on there or a mini light, it would just look unbelievable. 91,000, really nice colour combination with the oxblood leather in there as well. It's got the overdrive, it's got the Webasto style roof. So there's an awful lot to love on this, there really is. And it's had a new clutch just 400 miles ago. Our vendor has owned the car for some 11 years and there's a load of invoices and bits and pieces. It blows my mind that you can buy a car this nice for 5 or 6 grand, which is really the only classic car you'll ever need.
And also with the MGB GT, well actually and the Roadster 2, the legroom in the front is insane. I am 6'4" with very long legs. I just drop into these. They're so comfortable to drive. And either leave it on these alloys or sort of backdate it with something earlier. I think you would, whatever the wheels cost you, I think you'd put that value back into the car very, very quickly. Or would you prefer a Roadster? Impact bumper Roadster, this one being a 77. British Racing Green, the colour. 4.5 to 5.5 grand. 81,000 miles. It's a manual, this one. Just a nice looking car. The debate rages, doesn't it? Obviously, everybody generally prefers the chrome bumper cars. The impact bumper cars are cheaper. If you are street parking or driving in the real world, a little kiss on these impact bumpers doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world at all. So I think there's actually quite a lot to be said for them. What can we tell you about this one? It's got an overdrive button, but we've not tested it. It was driven here over 100 miles and the engine sounds beautiful. The engine is 1950, so it's had a little bit of an upgrade. It's a bit bigger and overbore. It's got a big engine kit in it. The engine bay is clean and it's got a larger radiator, so someone's obviously wanting to whistle along at a greater pace. Registration date is at 1991, which suggests, actually, it's been abroad, this car, as well. So we don't know where, but it's got a story to tell. It's also very, very nice. Very pretty level car. Again, not immaculate, but just usable, presentable, tidy. You could spend a weekend detailing this and have an extraordinary car out of it, actually. 4.5 to 5.5 grand. Or, let's try and find this, right. Another great British Roadster. This gentleman's obviously taken a shine to. The 1972 Triumph TR6. UK home market example, right-hand drive, this one. These have suddenly got very good value. These used to be like 20 odd grand for the absolute minters. And this one's a level old thing. It's got a little bit just on the wing there as it's just meeting the scuttle. But the paint's good, it's level. It's in decent condition. Mileage is 1,012. Supplied with a comprehensive history file, a TR6 handbook. It's got matching hand coupe tyres on it. Got very nicely restored powder coated wheels. And a history file that goes back to 1990. Now, this is what's going to amaze you about this car. Bearing in mind these were once the darling of all classic car mags with a huge price ticket on. You can now get a nice one like this for 7 to 8 grand. What's the roof like? Let's have a look at the roof. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's pretty decent. Got a little re-dye and a clean on there. You could have that looking very nice indeed. What I love about these, the drive is just superb. Because it's a 6-cylinder car, they're a little bit more hairy chested. It'll be stiffer. This will probably make it drive better, the rollover bar, make you feel a bit safer. I would personally take that off because I think they look a lot cleaner without it. But I guarantee it will drive nicer with it on. Doesn't ruin the line, I don't think at all. It does need a little bit of cosmetic work, looking at this, but I'm being picky. You could mop and correct a lot of this paintwork. The chrome's decent, a bit of chrome polish. A couple of weekends with that car, you'd have an absolutely lovely thing, and it wouldn't cost you much at all. Now, you see we've had a few cool hot rods in. If you want a bit of genuine hot rod history, how about this 1967 Austin A35 hot rod? Proper thing. I used to read Custom Car and Street Machine as a kid. It's what got me into cars. My dad used to have subscriptions for both. They were always lying around the house. And it shaped the kind of aesthetic of cars that I'm really into. And this is exactly it. The whole thing, I mean, have a look at the pictures on site. It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Everything about it, so the roof chop is really well done. It was all done in period, but it's all lasted so, so well. It's got a flip front on it as well, you can see. So it started life as an A35. Gary Cruz just chopped it to bits, as you can see, did such a good job. Street Machine Mag from 1988 did a feature, giving a great ride. So it's got the Rover V8 there with the blower and bits and pieces. It's got this amazing Hot Wheels livery on it as well. And it's just got this, like, I was obsessed with this look as a kid. So what they called the Pro Street look, where you have like a fairly sensible kind of 7 or 8J wheel on the front. Then you get this ridiculous tubbed and narrow back end on the back. So Fraser, if you just come down and look underneath the van, so you get this ridiculous aesthetic where if you look how close the rear tyres end up together. So there is actually a bit of a pull on this arch. It's very subtle and clever how it's been done. So that arch is actually further out than a standard van. But it's so subtle and so clever. I cannot even imagine the amount of work that's gone into this. But look inside, look. It's like the Joker's bathroom. But everything about it has been done to such a high standard.
It makes a stupid noise. It's actually got wheelie bars, this as well, if you want to go for the full authentic drag race look. Go to Santa Pod, they'll treat you as one of their own. But despite the fact that must be tens of thousands of pounds worth of work, that's up at 8 to 10 grand, that one. Fun thing. This is special. Look at this. We had a load of interest in this, and I'm not really surprised because this is a 2000 Land Rover Discovery. That much you know. 4-litre V8. So, Mad Max, like last of the big petrols. I just think these are the ones that everyone I want going forward. Because if you don't have to run it every single day, if you're keeping it as a classic high days and holidays machine, why would you not try and find a V8 one? Just such a great way to travel. They make such a beautiful noise. Look at the interior, very 2000s. So V8 Auto, proper waft. I do think this is potentially sort of collector level investment car, this one. So 17 to 19 would buy it. You won't ever really find that many for sale. It's got a fresh MOT, 17 stamps in the book. It's only done 23,000 miles, which is evident by the condition. If you actually look around at how clean the seats and the fabrics and the surfaces are, those 17 stamps back that up completely. So we have a super rare unicorn with a confirmed mileage. And you can just see, it's just thing when you look at the quality of all the components, the wheel nuts and calipers, everything's so clean. So dig deep on that one. If you want one, I can heartily recommend it. Definitely a future collector. That's definitely the Range Rover of its time, I think, that one. And it's an old money car. You could just turn up in that anywhere. It just screams old money, that car. Now, if you had an Action Man when you were little, like I did, you might be interested in this. This, again, is the real deal. Land Rover Wolf 90, this one. A much-loved military workhorse that's actually seen service in Africa, and all of these bits are real. This is not a lookalike or an evocation or a recreation. This is the real deal with this fantastic R13 Wolf number plate. One Civiona, and that registration plate comes with it. And all of these bits were as equipped by the MOD. Our Will has done a fantastic video on this, which really sort of shows us some of the things that make it quite special. So you've got like things like the reflective rear diff cover, so you can see it for night vision. You've got the side-mounted wheel, because they were found not to rattle off quite the same way. It's got the Ministry of Defence lineage. It's a cool thing. Is it refined and sophisticated? Not really. If you want to turn up at a car show with this slightly higher roof, they just are insanely awesome. Look. It's functional. It's meant to do a job, which it did very, very well. And that camo means you can park it somewhere and they won't find you. V5C is current and present. Previous MOT certificates, its dating service certificate, and its MOD history sheet. So it's a proper thing. Again, it's interesting. These ex-military vehicles don't fetch enormous amounts of money. 13 to 15 would buy you that, despite the fact it's a very expensive piece of kit to have specified, and it looks so good. Or if you want the sort of more urban chic, how about this? Hardtop Defender, fully converted. If you like kind of like the twisted style vehicles, this is very much in that thought line. This is a 2012 hardtop converted Defender, 27,000 miles, unbelievable spec. That mileage is the real deal. And 30 to 32 is going to buy you this. It's got the snorkel, it's got the wheels, it's got the pedestrian friendly bull bar so you can run them over. It's got a huge list of mods, including Devanti tyres, they're good tyres, I've got those on my Mustang. Side steps, mud flaps, snorkel, KBX fence, bumper upgrades, sump guards, door hinge, security hinges, which is good on these because people do nick them. It just goes on for pages and pages. Do have a look. It's very, very nice. The Corbeau seats as well, look. Again, these have a real scene, these Land Rovers, and particularly these street converted ones. What I like about this is the wheel choice has got a very tall tyre, so it will actually ride quite decently. So that's rather nice. That's going to cost you around about 30 grand. Or, if you want to go full rap artist, how about this one? This is a 1991 Land Rover Defender 90, 2.5, galvanised chassis on this, tons of upgrades. It's got a 2005 TD5 engine that's remapped to 200 brake horsepower. It's got AP brakes on it. It's got the twisted wheels on this one as well, stainless steel exhaust, Bilstein shock upgrades on there. Oh, so many things. Santorini Black Metallic is your colour. Had a full respray in 2020. It's got the panoramic glass reflux. You've got the glass there, which looks really, really modern and very trick. And these have a presence like nothing else. If you look inside, someone has obviously spent a lot of money on this. Little bits you can do to make it even more perfect. But what would you spend on that? That one's going to cost you 9 to 11. So that, to me, is a great example. I mean, if you look at the presence of those two, that has all the presence. Obviously slightly higher mileage, a few little jobs and bits and pieces to do. It's a third of the price of that one. That seems like a bit of a bargain to me. Get it bought, especially on a galvanised chassis. It's just price how much a galvanised chassis is, and then the labour to swap it all over. And it's got the very cool higher vented bonnet as well. Now, air-cooled Volkswagens are always a passion of mine. And again, it's really interesting to see that these vans, these beautiful vans, are becoming quite price rangy now, quite affordable. They used to be very expensive back in the day. This is a 73. It's the same age as me, wearing considerably better. But what I love about it, if you look, it's just a van. Look at this. It's an unmessed about, unmolested panel van that's still doing panel van things, not converted into a camper. No windows have been cut into it. And for that reason, it has a lot of uses, not least of all as a van. But imagine this with your company logo on the side. Look, I'm going to shut the door now, friend. Imagine that all sign written. There you go. I've got to shut it properly. It's very straight down the sides. When you're buying any old Volkswagen Type 2, have a look down the sides. You see there's a couple of little dents there. It's very straight, I have to say. A couple of little dents there. But what a lovely thing. Between 8 and 9 grand to buy that, and it's a blank canvas. You could keep it as a van. It's right-hand drive as well. And it appears to be a UK supplied right-hand drive van, which would make it a very, very rare thing indeed. A very rare thing indeed. No visible additions, bar radio, the engine bay is clean. It's got fitted with new parts, got a fire extinguisher fitted. It's just a clean, lovely, honest van. I think if you're out there, you're looking for a great project, it doesn't need much, it really doesn't. And that will give you £8,000 or £9,000. Right, and that is our last one in this haul. Join me after a cup of tea in the mini room. Right, we're in the mini room, and the mini room, you'll be delighted to know, is absolutely full of minis. Must apologise, recently there's been a lack of minis in the mini room. We are very much making up for that today with a plethora of minis, but also this. You may not know what this is. I've only ever seen one before. This is a 1976 DRK three-wheeler. This was a really interesting little project, this. So basically, some lovely guys in Ellesmere Port, clearly very talented engineers, decided to build a one-off for themselves based on running mechanicals, and then it was so popular and so well thought of, they ended up making a small production run, and the quality and the finish is quite something. So if you haven't quite got the money from Morgan, and you want something that's a little bit different and unusual, but actually quite drivable and lovely, this is it. So wood frame, metal panelled, sort of very Morgan-esque construction, and I think a very pleasant looking thing. We have written the whole story. I can't tell it to you now because we'd have to devote an entire video. It would have been a good video for Ed to do, this would have. But there's 3 pages of the description and the backstory to this car on the website. So if you are genuinely interested, if you're into low-run boutique car manufacturers, it's not really a kit car, this, because it was actually handmade and hand-finished. But if you like stuff that's like that, that's weird and wonderful, and you don't see many of, do read the story. It really brings it home to you. And the fit and the finish are exceptional, easily as good as Morgan. And yeah, just a charming little thing. So a fun way to pootle around, not particularly quickly. But yeah, you can see, look, I see drive shafts at the front. So rather than the Morgan that powers the back wheel, front wheel drive. So I bet that's actually really fun to drive because it's always going to try and pull itself square, which I would have thought is quite, handling would be very benign. Mini Clubman, so we're back to minis in the mini room. There's so many minis for you. 1978, look at this. Austin Mini Clubman 1275 GT. Really lovely unspoilt car with one previous owner. 10 to 12 grand because it's lovely, this. It's had some paint, very nice paint. 82,000, one owner, attractive colour. Appears to be original apart from the fact it's had the paint. It's got the heritage certificate and it's super clean. Just been recommissioned. It's got the roof. Should take a moment to have a look inside. Single mirror as well, look, which is quite cool. Look how clean that is. Just not messed with at all. And imagine this would have had some de novo style wheels on at some point. It's got those lovely trims on. Recently recommissioned after a period of storage, costing 3 grand, and now runs beautifully with an MOT through to October 2025. Bought from Wadham Stringer, if you remember them. It was 3.5 grand when it was new.
Look at that. Reconditioned engine fitted in 2006 at a cost of £1,000. Try doing that now. Paint's really good, actually. Gutters are lovely as well. Come and have a look down here, Fraser. Would you like to check the gutter on a Mini? Look at that. They all look like original welds, don't they? Look, all the original spot welds. What a charming little thing. So yeah, very, very good on the seams, that, actually. Very, very good on the seams. A couple of tiny bits just starting to go. Little tiny bleb under the back window. Yeah, a super, super little car. I think it's had a paint a long time ago. And you just start to see the odd tiny little mark, but super original, very honest, and that is 10 to 12, that one. Now this is an interesting spec. Have a look at this. What an eyeful. 2006 Mini Cooper S Cabriolet. Why is this cool? Well, first of all, it's Cooper S Cabriolet with the colour-coded skirts, which I think look really nice when they started doing that. 65,000 miles, but automatic. We are trying to get cars consigned now that are really cool and interesting with auto gearboxes, because we are realising more and more people, particularly younger enthusiasts, only have automatic licenses. And also, if it's a Mini convertible, they're nice to stir the gears, but if you're just wafting in the sunshine, auto is what you want. Rare auto, cherish number stays with it. 11 stamps in the book on this one as well. And it's just a bit of an eyeful, isn't it? It's a nice, clean car. A few little areas where I think you could detail more in. Clean and feed the leather. The paint is very good. The bonnet stripe, I think, is an add-on, looking at it. So you might want to do that again if you want to make it perfect. But it's not going to be an expensive car. What is that? No reserve. There you go. Cheap summer fun that looks great. If you've got an auto-only license, if you just want a wafter, there's your car. And you get to choose the price. Now, we've had a few very nice commercial vehicles in this sale, but what about this? Now this I adore because you've got this lovely, plain, simple, original looking body shell on this 1975 Mini 850 van, but somebody's stuffed it with a 998 A+ engine and given it this amazing restoration. So you've got the wider Cooper wheels, you've got the quicker motor, manual gearbox, it's got discs on the front as well, it's got the Cooper wheels, as I say, the Yokohamas. It's got a lovely interior retrim. Let me just open that for you. Come on here, Freeze, have a look at this from the driver's side. Look at this. Isn't this fun? So what we've actually got is a bit of a sleeper. Nice Motor Lisa style wheel there as well. And all carried out at Rutland Avenue Garage in Lancaster as well. So a nice mid-70s look. You could sign write this, couldn't you? You could make this your promotional vehicle. It's a bit of a Q car as well. I bet it flies, actually. Just a word of warning. You might, if your MOT tester or copper is having a bad day, you might fail an MOT on the fact that those wheels are sticking out from the arch. Technically, that is an MOT failure, but... So either run a narrower Cooper wheel or just a slightly wider arch. Either or would be very good. What would you pay for that? 13 to 15 grand. It is really clean and very well done. And there's so much potential with that. You could do so many things with that, couldn't you? Right, one of my favourite specials, the Rover Mini Equinox. I love the colour of these. This is a 1996. It's when Rover were really going through a lot of special edition models. It was coming towards the end of the Mini's life, and they worked out that by doing different things, calling them different names, doing lots of funky colours and trims, they could get rid of the last cars. If you look at these, they're very nice inside. Fraser's going to come and show you the deep bucket seats. This one has done 56,000 miles. And you get this funky, very 90s door panels and furniture. Now, it had the SPI, it's been converted to carbs, it's got Yokohamas and super lights on, it's got some aftermarket arches, which I don't dislike actually. So a little bit wider, cover the wider wheels, 2 sets of keys, Haynes manual, it just sits really well. Now, it was restored 10 years ago. What did it have then? It had new seals, door skins, A-panels, subframe and a full respray. So it's not the purest choice because it's got a few, I think, choice aftermarket mods. The super lights really make it look good. And because it's carburetted, I think it will actually drive a lot better and sound a lot better as well. So a brilliant little car, not going to be huge amounts of money, 4.5 to 5.5. There's some discoloration on the roof under the lacquer. So again, if you wanted to budget just to get the roof done, which probably wants either a wet flat and a repaint, or possibly, you might get away with the lacquer, but budget on repainting the roof or wrapping it. You'd have a lovely little car there. Doesn't that look good? Doesn't it sit well? A few little aftermarket mods like the clear indicators. I just think add to it. Now you can see this was probably the best example we've ever seen. Mini 40 sold already. And that's the 3-stage process. If we put a car in, we're here to represent the vendor. If you want to make an offer for any car before the auction, we'll always present it to the vendor. If that vendor wants to take the car off the market, that's always their decision. So if you come in with a big, steamy offer, as what happened in this case, sold. New home. Right, this is cute. Somebody buy this before I do, please. I think I'd look like Mr. Incredible if I bought this car. 1958 Gogmobile, no reserve, TS300. Really rare little car. It's just a charming microcar, and amazingly solid for a 50s car, this. Great colour combination, good interior. You don't see many of these. It's got the suicide doors on it. Just a smashing little thing. Runs, drives, it's hilarious, and it's done 32,000 miles. And they produced 3 of these, the sedan, the coupe, and the TL van. It's an air-cooled 2-stroke, 2-cylinder. So is it fast? No. But does it make a funny noise and make everybody want to talk to you when you arrive at the car show? Yes, it does. It's actually surprisingly roomy. I actually fit in there. You've got the suicide doors, which are the coolest thing ever. And they're not as small as you'd think. So small on the outside, big on the inside, and no reserve. We like that very much. Now this is so pretty. Come and have a look at this. Everything about this I like. Everything about this I like. From the colour, how it sits, the wheel choice, which I think is so good and quite unusual. So an Austin 7 Mini, it's just everything about it. It's got the X factor, this car. So it's not correct historically. It's got a few things that aren't quite right on it, like the arches and the wheels. But to me, they actually add to it. 60,000 miles, 2 previous owners, original book and handbooks. Just great detailed restoration, which we've got for you. The correct wavy grille. And just someone's really thought about this. You can see they've gone through it and done a lovely job. Done by RM Restorations in Essex. Beautiful 61 Mini. Just had a ton of money. Full service has been done. Fuel tank clean, carb overhaul, coolant flush. Do go through the history and the details. It's lovely. Isn't that great inside? I love the original interiors. They're so clever. And these early Minis, they have much more room because the dash is further away. The doors fold with a bigger storage because you've got no window drop down. So the early Minis feel larger inside than the later ones do, even though it's the same shell. It's much cleverer packaging. That would cost you somewhere between 11 and 14. I think you'd be very happy if you took that home. Right, this is a little flying machine. I'm going to get Fraser to go down the side where it should normally say 1275. Have a look at that. Someone's been messing and we love it. So this has, believe it or not, a gas-flowed solid cam 1.8 cylinder head on an MGT F160 bottom end with Piper camshaft, programmable ignition, Yamaha carbs, alley radiator, Jan speed exhaust, and on it goes. Gas coilovers, MGF calipers, Dolomite sprint wheels on a Mini. How well does that work? You should have a look at the wheels. They look amazing. That shouldn't work as well as it does. Pageant blue, my favourite BL colour as well from that period. It's been de-seamed, which you don't notice at first. Then when you do, you think, why doesn't everybody de-seam their Minis? Look, it looks so much cleaner. Old competition trick. The reason they do that, A, it looks really cool and actually in some ways makes the shell stronger. But actually, if you add up all of the front seam area of a Mini, it's 40 square inches. It's massive. So it makes the car much more slippery. It's got a roll cage in the back. It's got bucket seats. It's fast. It's usable. It's got a little bit of stuff to do. You know, there's a few little bits of rust and a few bits where you could add value and make it better. But I bet that is utterly hilarious. I'd like to have a drive of that. 6 to 7 grand, which is probably a third of the money that's gone into it. And you would spank a lot of very expensive cars with that. And you'd have a lot of fun doing it. 6 to 7 grand, that could be yours. Right, onwards, my friends. Right, if you like a bit of a deal, how about you buy one, you get 2 free? So not only have I got here for you a Renault 5 GT Turbo, an iconic hot hatch with amazing competition provenance, but you get 2 parts cars as part of it. Now, I think this one looks almost savable. So you've almost got one car, a car to build into it, and then either another one. So this lot 280, is for 3 vehicles. You will own them all with whatever you bid. So what can I tell you about this? It's got 112,000 miles. This one's done 102,000 miles. This one's got some TSWs on. And this one's got a very interesting registration. Look, if you've got anything to do with diesel particulate filters and you're the A1 outlet for them, there's your number plate. So you're buying this, which is scruffy, but complete. It's got a roof, seats are in there. Right, let me go through them all. So it's 89 Phase 2, electric blue with black sports cloth. Forming part of a deceased estate. It was last on the road in 2016. It's been garage stored since then. And it's true barn find, this one. So the second one's an 88 tungsten with black sports cloth. That's been off the road to a similar amount of time to the blue car. A little bit of corrosion on this grey one here, I can see. I think that blue one's eminently savable. I mean, to be honest, you can save anything, can't you? That, I think, is probably too far gone. This, if you are a welder body shop person, I think you really could. But if you can't make a great car out of the three, I would be utterly amazed. And also, of course, you could, if need be, provide parts from any other GT turbos. I mean, Lord knows what a full kit on a GT turbo costs. Probably quite a lot of money. But I would definitely save the blue one. Try and save the grey one. Because this has obviously got non-standard bonnet vents. RS Turbo Style E, so you could use the nicer bonnet to get that back to standard. And don't forget, a good one of these, a mint one of these, can be in the 20s now. So I think you could easily get your money back and make a nice car out of both of them. Right, come with me, I've got some more good stuff for you. Right, if you're going to buy one of the smaller cars at the auction, bring your vehicle with a tow bar and buy this as well, because this is a no reserve Alfa Williams trailer. So Alfa Williams, as you know, super high quality trailer manufacturer, made here in the UK. This is interesting because it's a smaller trailer, so you won't get massive cars on it. But if you're buying an MGB, beach buggy, something slightly smaller, it will fit beautifully. It's rated up to 1,400 kilograms payload, so anything up to 1.4 tons you'll get on here. It's in remarkable condition. It's beautiful, actually. Got the light guards on, got the inbuilt ramps. They are a shorter ramp, so you wouldn't get anything super low on it. It's got the optional removable front wheel chocks as well on there, so that it can level itself as you go down. It's got detachable loading skids. It's a very nice bit of kit. I would imagine several £1,000s worth when it was new. And as you can see online, got the winch. Look how clean everything is. This is not a very old trailer at all. So yeah, bring your tow car up, bid on this, and then that's how you get the car you bought home. And also, being single axle, the limiting factor of that is it's slightly less stable, and of course it's limiting the payload. But if you're trying to maneuver one of these on your own, it's so much more fun with a single axle because they're much more flickable. So if you've got a small space and you have to put your trailer away yourself, that's the one. Right, back inside to the warm. So thank you very much for watching that entire video. If you're still here 3 hours later, I love you long time. Don't forget, like and subscribe, ring that bell. And if your penchant is for motorcycles, do check out my learned colleague, Mr. Steve Berry, who has done, I think, 3 hours, 40 minutes of motorcycles with an interesting and funny story about every single one of them, because he's ridden them all. Thank you for watching. I'll see you at the auction. Don't forget, fun starts 10 o'clock Saturday here at Manor Park Classics or at manorparkclassics.com.